wanted to talk about the crocodile hunter because I think, it was tragic at the time, but I think, I don't know, people calling me, man, they're shocked. Oh, hey, you wouldn't believe it, who got killed? The crocodile hunter.
Please don't make me laugh at this.
This is not good. He was 44 years old. I'm like, that's a ripe old age for a crocodile hunter. You think this guy didn't have a little hard time getting life insurance? You know what I mean? Guy's like, I'm looking at your occupation here. I don't know if this is a joke or whatever, but says here you're a crocodile hunter. And you know who had to be pissed about it were the crocodiles, because he got killed by some fruity fish. So you know the crocodiles were like, hey man, that crocodile hunter got killed. Who did it, Frank? Nah, you don't even want to know, man.
Please don't do this anymore.
Bill, man, you had a chance once. The guy go, man, I had a chance. I had that mother. He was Tommy with a stick. I could have eaten him and his kid.
I love that bit. All right, welcome everyone to Read Out. We are down a man today, but that's okay. The show goes on. Christian had to pull out for some personal reasons, just dealing with some business, but the show goes on. So I am joined today with John, as usual. John, how are you doing tonight?
Good. Glad to be here. Glad to talk about all the silly, wacky happenings and sayings going on in the interwebs these days. Lots of fun topics lined up. Excited to get into it.
Indeed. No, I'm excited. I think it'll be a fun clip show. A lot of fodder for conversation. A lot of just dumb things that people have said across the board. So we got a whole smorgasbord for you tonight. So should be a good time. All right. Yep, people are streaming in here. Awesome. Fantastic. To kick off the discussion, first of all, I'll be drinking 1792. I'm trying out their foolproof bottle. It's new. I had some yesterday, and it was okay. It wasn't particularly impressive. I haven't heard great things about their foolproof version, so I'm in no way a 1792 fan, but this one seemed like a step above, so we'll see how it is. Thank you for the super chat. Christian's pullout game. Oh, good.
No, I saw that. Yeah, that's what I was grimacing at.
All right. But before we jump into the clips, I wanted to continue to go through some of Romans, since we started talking about Romans 13 last week and discussed how that leads to a discussion around yes, submission to government authority, but also just a submission or a discussion around the law and the Christian's relationship to the law in a post Judaizing context, and how we are to view the law in general, both the law that's instituted by our governing authorities, but also the law of God. And it's the law of God that I want to talk a little bit more about today, pulling from Romans 2. So, John, if you can pull that up.
Of course, let me grab that real fast. There it is. All right, so here we have God's righteous judgment. Is there a specific spot that you wanted me to start at?
Let's start from verse 12.
Sure. All who sin apart from the law will also perish apart from the law, and all who sin under the law will be judged by the law. For it is not those who hear the law who are righteous in God's sight, but it is those who obey the law who will be declared righteous. Indeed, when Gentiles who do not have the law do by nature things required by the law, they are a law for themselves, even though they do not have the law. They show that the requirements of the law are written on their hearts, their consciences also bearing witness, and their thoughts sometimes accusing them, and at other times even defending them. This will take place on the day when God judges people's secrets through Jesus Christ, as my gospel declares.
Yeah, so stop there for a second. So this idea of Gentiles not having the law, but having a law of a sort written on their hearts, it starts to indicate a different relationship that we have with the law, and it gives credence to sort of the natural law theories that are the Catholics certainly see as being in harmony with the gospel and with God's law. But this idea, what's fascinating, especially about this, is verse 15, where it says, "They show that the work of the law is written on their hearts, while their conscience bears witness, and their conflicting thoughts accuse or even excuse them." So that idea of your conscience being able to, perhaps it certainly will accuse you. We're very familiar with that role of the conscience, but even perhaps to excuse you of certain things that would otherwise be violations. Um, it's hard to there's so many different takes on this passage and Romans in general and how it deals with the law and the Christian freedom, the freedom that we have in Christ, which is freedom from the law. It's limited, but it is it is a new relationship that we have with the law. So I don't want to give you any sort of a definitive perspective, but I just want you to chew on this concept of a law that is written on your hearts, and one that would be accessible to even the Gentiles who had not received the law. And this passage goes on in the next passage that we'll read in a second here to talk about how circumcision, even, which is part of the law, can be one of circumcision of the heart, not just an outward circumcision. And so there's this sense in which one must there's something greater than the written law. There is something that the written law is trying to drive us to, but the written law is not the end in itself. So jump down to verse 25, and then go to the end of the chapter from there.
Circumcision has value if you observe the law, but if you break the law, you have become as though you had not been circumcised. So then, if those who are not circumcised keep the law's requirements, will they not be regarded as though they were circumcised? The one who is not circumcised physically and yet obeys the law will condemn you, who, even though you have the written code and circumcision, are a lawbreaker. A person is not a Jew who is one only outwardly, nor is circumcision merely outward and physical. No, a person is a Jew who is one inwardly, and circumcision is circumcision of the heart by the Spirit, not by the written code. Such a person's praise is not from other people, but from God.
So this idea of the spirit of the law as opposed to the letter, this is, I think, ultimately the crux of this passage and of this concept of how we are to view our new relationship with the law. It is one of the spirit of the law rather than the letter of the law. And like, this is a concept outside of biblical teaching. John, have you heard that, in terms of even legal terms, as I understand it, in the U.S. Legal common law, there is this concept of spirit of the law as opposed to letter of the law, is applied in our courts in the United States. Have you kind of heard that discussion? Yeah.
Well, absolutely. It's like, yes, is there a speeding law? Absolutely. If your wife is pregnant and you go 20 miles an hour over to get to the emergency room or whatever, you oftentimes get out of it. Even though you are, on a technicality paper level, breaking the law, you have kept the spirit of it by doing the greater good in that case, right? Same thing why there's like Good Samaritan laws where even if technically speaking you hurt somebody in the pursuit of doing something good, you're not held liable for that.
Right. And there's there are many examples also where, and this is one of the things that makes laws so tricky to write, statutory law, is that you can follow the letter of the law and miss the spirit of the law. And it's really hard to pin someone down for breaking the letter of the law, because if they follow the letter, but we all kind of know that they broke the spirit of it, and that's where that's what makes statutory law so difficult. And that's why in the United States we primarily use common law. Statutory law is actually secondary to common law. Common law is the wealth of law that has been passed down. And so in the U.S., like English law, I think, goes even farther in their preference for common law. But in the U.S., we do value both, but we definitely put common law over statutory law because in the end, the statutes can be broken and statutes can be, or they can be kept in a way that is actually not in the keeping with the spirit of the law. And this is why you'll see people talk about, crazy laws from the 1700s that have never actually been removed but are not enforceable, right? Because yes, the statute's there, but if they've never been enforced, then they actually do not there is no underlying spirit that actually needs to be upheld with these laws. They've basically made themselves null and void. Um, so so this conversation directly feeds into the Romans 13 conversation around submission to authority and how we interact with laws that our government institutes. But in Romans 2, he's primarily talking about God's law. And I think that we can kind of work backwards from our kind of common understanding, colloquial understanding of this spirit letter distinction, and look at applying that idea of being within the spirit of God's law. And so then the question is, what is the spirit? What is sort of the crux of God's law? And that's where Romans 13 is also helpful in clarifying, as Christ did as well, that ultimately it is love. Love is a fulfillment of the law. And when Christ is asked, what is the summation of the law? He says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. And so that is what it boils down to, and that is the essence. That is the spirit that we are trying to direct our ways with. Now, that is rife for abuse, as we will see in many of the clips. James Tallarico talking about his wacky views on what it means to be a Christian and how to follow the law. So there's a warning that goes along with this, but there is a legitimacy there to drawing this distinction between the letter and the spirit of the law, and trying to work through these passages in that context.
Mm-hmm. Well, and this is a huge divide between like Judaism and Christianity is this hyper legalistic letter of the law sort of mentality, whereas like the Talmud is 37 volumes of rabbis arguing back and forth over like the most minute legalistic methods of getting around the law, basically, right? So that's why, technically speaking, we're not breaking our law if we do X, Y, and Z to get around it, and all of that violates the condition of the heart, right? They're not even considering that. There's no spirit of the law. There's no higher. It is merely what's written, right? And this is, of course, Paul writing, well, I think Paul writing this to the Romans, to the church in Rome, and trying to delineate between what is, with Judaism and what is going to be with Christianity, which is why they're separated, right? Even when like the Pharisees try and confront Jesus and they're like, hey, you can't heal a man on the Sabbath. That's against our law. That's against the rule. And he says, no, actually, there is a higher law. Like if you have a sheep that's lost on the Sabbath, you will go out and get it. It is the right thing to do in that. Even if on a technicality paper level, you're not supposed to do any work on the Sabbath. You're not supposed to carry anything over like 15 pounds or something on the Sabbath, right?
Right. And I think even the where it says, so if man, let's see, for the circumcision is not indeed, let's see, I'm trying to find this passage.
Well, it says the one who is not circumcised physically yet obeys the law will condemn you, even though you have the written code and circumcision, right? So even though you have pride in, your letter of the law, I'm a Jew who's circumcised, but your condition of the heart is off, and even somebody who does not have circumcision, right? It's not physically in line with what you believe.
And I think
right?
It's clear.
He will condemn you.
It's not explicit here, but I think it's clear that the way in which the Gentile would have followed the law would have looked very different from the Jew. I mean, he would have been so far removed from the letter of the law that he would be doing all kinds of things that were really violations of the law. And based on this passage, it sounds like largely not be condemned for those things because he didn't have the written law. But if he was living into the spirit of the law, then actually could be excused. And so I just think the way in which the Gentile in this context would have followed the law would look very different from a Jew following the law. I think to your point earlier, what Paul is writing here is really a restatement of what Jesus is describing in the Sermon on the Mount, where, yes, you're not committing adultery, but if you're even looking with lustful eyes, then you're breaking the law, right? Jews to this day will say things like, pornography is really not all that bad because, it's not actually adultery. And, it is different. It's not the same, ask your wife if she preferred that you look at porn or commit adultery. And I think that ultimately adultery is a more grievous offense, but it's a a degree of the same type of sin, and ultimately you are condemned even in.
Did I just hear a turbo blow off?
There's a really loud engine beside me. I'm trying to. Sounds like
Yeah,
a jet's trying to take off.
It does sound, because it's coming back, like every time you talk, it comes through the mic, and so you get like little bits and pieces. It sounds like the engine stuttering, but I'm sure from your end it's much louder.
He's pulling out right now, but yeah, it's scrambling my thoughts here. But anyways, he's finally pulling away. People like to drag race down my street, apparently. But there we go. That's enough for now. Romans 2, I would recommend it to you, and all of Romans, really. But look for this theme of Christian liberty and our new relationship with the law. There's a great passage in Romans 7 as well that talks about how a widow is allowed to remarry because her husband has died, and therefore Paul describes the relationship that we have to the law is similar to the widow who's similar to the widow's relationship to her dead husband, where it's like the husband has died, and so now she can do something that otherwise would be a violation of the law, remarry, but it's not a violation of the law because he's died. And our relationship to the law is actually very similar. He sets up a very interesting parallel. So Romans 7 is also a key passage there. Maybe we'll talk about that at some point in the future. Alrighty, we can dive into the clips now.
Well, I think first up we have. I kind of wish Christian was here for this, because it is going to be Doug Wilson talking about making Eucharistic processions illegal. Now, within Catholicism and Orthodoxy, there are Eucharistic processions where you take the consecrated host, which is a blessed host, and you're going to have other icons with it. The Catholic and Orthodox icons will be slightly different. Some of the garb will be different or whatnot, but it's part of the liturgical process. And usually you will walk around your church or local area while praying, and there might be specific prayers, there might be specific passages. Usually they'll be holding like the huge oversized Bibles and whatnot. It's a liturgical process. You'll be praying during the thing. It's part of their liturgy, right? So I guess Protestants, or some Protestants I should say, view this as idolatrous, although I'm not exactly sure how it would be delineated from just us walking around in a prayer walk, as Protestants do as well. Although there's just the usage of icons, I guess, which obviously is a big delineation between Protestants and Orthodox and Catholics, but it's really just with
the Eucharist specifically, it's the idea that they are worshiping the host, because Catholics do believe that the consecrated host is the body and blood of Christ, and so it can receive the worship that is due to God alone, right? I mean, we're not just talking about worship like you would give to Mary or some kind of worship. We're talking about actual like worship in the most extreme case to bread, right? What they believe is transubstantiated bread. So it's no longer bread in their minds in terms of its substance. They would say that its essence is actually God. And so there is a worshiping of something that is tangible. And if you reject that, the transubstantiation, then it does look like idolatry. I mean, it is by definition idolatry if you reject transubstantiation. And so that's the context, and that's why I think a Eucharistic procession, but really just the view of transubstantiation in general, is problematic for Protestants.
Well, and Orthodox don't have transubstantiation, but they still do the Eucharistic processions with the Blessed Host. So, but I wish we could have one of them on to discuss, is it actually worship of it? Because if you do believe in transubstantiation, right, where it's only the accidents that remain, but the substance is the body and blood of Christ, then if that is your theology, then you could worship that, right? That would be valid.
What is
your theology?
You know more about this than I do. What is the Orthodox perspective? I wasn't aware that
it's mystical union. So they do not they do not have a set in stone transubstantiation.
It as well,
no,
but
they
okay.
Don't. Yeah.
But they do see.
So I mean, theirs and our like real presence is basically the same. It's not
interesting.
Somehow it happens, right?
Gotcha. Okay.
All right, but we do have this clip from Doug Wilson, which again I have a couple little snide comments about, but we'll listen to him explain it. Zionist Doug Wilson, a Christian pastor, says in an ideal world, the U.S. would ban Eucharistic processions and worship of Mary as idolatry. Shoot, what the heck? Where did it go? Oh, sorry. No, I thought I said more. Wilson sees no irony in his idolatry of Israel and Jews in his version of Christianity. So we'll just let this play out here.
Catholic church bells would be okay, right? Catholic church bells would be okay, but a parade in honor of the Virgin Mary, carrying an image of the Virgin Mary down Main Street, no, right? So
what about the Eucharist? What about the Eucharist?
Well, before he gets to the Eucharist, if you have icons or Christian art, right, whatever you would like to call it, I know the theology behind it is a little different, but what would be wrong with carrying Christian art around as part of your liturgy, right? As long as you're not, like, I guess, worshiping the wood and the paint, like, would there be a problem with parading beautiful Christian art around your church?
No, not as such.
So I don't know. And again, this is kind of what we were just talking about with if there's some sort of legalistic definition that Doug is holding of like icons in general, like there should not be any of them, or if it's more of a condition of the heart, right? Because there is some potentiality for idolatry in everything, right? So which is why Protestants would, say that this is probably not a great pragmatic idea to elevate these to such a level, because we want to have some sort of idol. We want to have something physical to worship, as the ancient Israelites fell into over and over and over again with their own pagan statues or the pagan rituals of, whoever they conquered or whoever was near them, right?
And I don't remember if this clip is long enough. I think it is, where Doug does provide some of the necessary context for his answer, or tries to sort of explain it in such a way that it is, I think he's trying to allow for that type of nuance. Go ahead and go back to the beginning. I want to hear the exact question that he's asked as well.
Catholic church bells would be okay, right? Catholic church bells would be okay, but a parade in honor of the Virgin Mary, carrying an image of the Virgin Mary down Main Street, no, right? So
what about the Eucharist? What about the Eucharist? What about?
Okay, sorry. The way it's framed there, I just want to interject a little bit. Like, what if we just had a parade for like a president or a king? Like, that's not a problem.
So, right, it's not. It's the issue isn't the parade. It is the issue is the theology. So, if you go back to,
but that's
I thought the question
generic.
was asked in this clip. I think it's asked. Maybe they state it in the.
I could probably find the longer version.
I think the question he was asked was in an ideal, Christian nationalist society, according to Doug Wilson, which is going to be a Protestant Christian nationalism, would this be allowed? And ultimately, Doug's answer boils down to, you wouldn't want to have public displays that are contrary to the creed, the Christian nationalist creed, which again, in this case, in Doug Wilson's ideal world, is going to be Protestant. And so if you see these processions as being fundamentally idolatrous, if you see the way that Mary is treated in Catholicism as being fundamentally idolatrous, or at least very, very leans towards idolatry.
Let me give you
then this has to be the answer, right? Again, this is an ideal world. To me, we should let him finish the clip. But in the end, I think Doug Wilson's response is not at all shocking. It's kind of like saying, oh, the Pope is Catholic. It's like every time the Pope comes out against abortion, it's like, well, yes, obviously the Pope is going to be against abortion. Breaking news, the Pope is Catholic. Or in an Orthodox ideal Christian nationalism, in their ideal version of Christian nationalism, would the Pope be have some kind of ultimate authority? Well, no, because they don't believe in his ultimate earthly authority. And so obviously in their ideal world, the Pope wouldn't be the head in the way that he is in a Catholic way. It's like in this ideal world, all of the different groups are going to have different perspectives on what is allowed that flow directly from their presuppositions.
Well, I totally get that, right? From the Protestant worldview, like if you're saying, I'm creating a Protestant society, well, there's not going to be any Catholics in the first place, right? But I'm curious, right? If I
I
was
don't
to
think
be
you
the
would say
person,
that.
well, no, but I'm in an ideal. Why would you want somebody, if you view Catholics as idolaters in an ideal world? Why would you want people committing idolatry? It's the same reason, like I wouldn't want worship of Odin in my streets in a in my ideal scenario, right? I don't want Odin worshippers having a parade of Odin in my city, right?
Well, right, but because the part of the Protestant and really Catholic and just Christian ethos is one of not forced conversion. Even
Right,
in our ideal society, we're not talking about like, well, right, but we're talking about an ideal government. We're talking about an ideal government society, not an ideal like once Christ comes back, we're all going to be on the same page.
Well, right,
of
but he's saying he
That's
would
not
ban.
what we're talking about.
Yes, but he's saying he would ban Catholic processions with Mary, so
Because
I
of
would
the public nature of it. So that's why I'm saying he
Well-
would say that, but he wouldn't go so far as saying, no Catholics allowed, no Catholic services, no, that's it. He would even allow Catholic churches in this ideal society who do hold to their Catholic teachings of the Eucharist and everything. Even though he thinks that's idolatrous, he would still be comfortable with that. It's the public nature of it. It's the government sponsored component.
Well, again, the
is...
only little thing that I would like to ask him personally is if he would have a consistent standard, and if he would also ban all public displays of Judaism as well. That would be my question. I would hope so. I would hope he would be consistent and say yes, but I would like to see him pressed on that specifically, because usually some people get a little finicky when you start talking about that one. But I found the longer clip here.
Let me give you a couple of very practical examples. Okay. Could Muslims be here? Live? Yes, they could be. Could they hold political office? No. Could Muslims gather together with their Muslim family and friends to pray to Allah? Yes. Right? Could you have a mosque? Yes. Could they have a minaret, a prayer tower that issues a public call to prayer? No, because the public spaces belong to Christ. Right? We're a Christian nation. So church bells are okay. Church bells are okay. But a Muslim call to prayer in the public space would not be okay. Catholic church bells would be okay, right? Catholic church bells would be okay. But a parade in honor of the Virgin Mary, carrying an image of the Virgin Mary down Main Street, no, right? So
what about the Eucharist? What about the Eucharist? What about a Eucharistic procession?
That's a new one. I would say probably not. It would depend on what was being done around it, how it was being conducted. But basically, public displays of idolatry, what the Protestant foundation of the law would consider to be idolatry, would not be allowed. So you wouldn't have a Hindu procession with a Hindu god. You wouldn't have a procession of the Virgin Mary.
Right. And Orthodox and Catholics both got really offended at that statement. And to me, it's like, well, obviously, he's describing an ideal public scenario where idolatry is not allowed, and the Protestant definition of idolatry differs from the Orthodox and the Catholic definition of idolatry and what constitutes idolatry. So naturally, from those different definitions, you're going to get different laws.
Mm-hmm. Well, something like interesting. I was just looking up the first Eucharistic procession. Well, I mean, there's 1.2 billion Catholics in the world, so banning part of their liturgy in public would be, that's something to talk about, right? Especially ostensibly you're a Christian. Usually there's not that much Christian infighting. Usually it's anti-Muslim for the most part in the West. So Doug is actually being principled here by saying that, but I just looked it up just for funs. The first Eucharistic procession was in 1264. So there's actually more time between Christ and the first Eucharistic procession than there is between the first Eucharistic procession and now. So it is not, at least from what I'm seeing here, just by a quick Google search, it is not even within the first millennium at all.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. So that's late enough where that would be post a lot of the schisms. So is that a purely Catholic thing, or do the Orthodox also have
looked it up.
processions?
I looked it up beforehand to see if Orthodox did Eucharistic procession, and they do, as part of they have a consecrated host and they walk around and they do prayers and specific liturgies that go along with it. But I'm not sure what the delineation would be between the two. But yeah, 1264. There was the Eucharistic miracle with a bleeding host, and Pope Urban IV then instituted the feast of Corpus Christi and commissioned Thomas Aquinas to compose the liturgical text for the feast. And then this is the out of that Thomas Aquinas and the part of the liturgy that was developed for that was the first Eucharistic procession.
I also think that, I'm not speaking for Doug, and Doug can speak for himself. He doesn't need me to speak for him. And I'm not a Doug acolyte like some people. I think Doug is just fine. I think he's got a lot of good things to say. He did a lot of good during COVID and standing up for things that needed to be stood up for. He also says some silly things, and there's plenty of things I disagree with him on. But I do think that Doug Wilson's version of Christian nationalism does hold to a certain level of subsidiarity, where local governments set up have more governance over local matters than the larger governments, and basically you try to allow for a large amount of latitude at the lower levels, especially as it pertains to local things. And so if you had, like the city of Corpus Christi in Texas, I believe, if they were predominantly Catholic and they wanted to have something like a Eucharistic procession or something, then most likely, even in Doug's version, that would probably be allowed. It would depend on kind of how he's balancing subsidiarity with this ideal version of Christian nationalism, but that's just another factor to throw in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, somebody was asking in the chat if it was AI that I got my answer from. No, it's the Catholic Company, Catholic Heart Ablaze, and the Catholic Report all say basically the same thing. Now, they try and tie it together with some earlier processions in the Old Testament about certain feasts, which I'm sure there is some more historical context to it, but the first official Eucharistic procession was in 1264. So, interesting.
And that's interesting as well. Reformed Renegade says that Anglicans do Eucharistic processions as well.
Well, but that would make sense, right? They would have 500 years of Eucharistic processions within their Anglican Catholic tradition. So, before the split. Oh, well, should we move on to Pope Leo?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so here is let me see if I can figure out where exactly this was from real fast. Pope Leo without war. So this was last week. He put out a message, just a basically pleading for peace, right? Which is part of the Pope's job to publicly, sue for peace, talk about diplomacy. This is specifically against the U.S., Israel, Iran war currently, and he's addressing this message to all of the world leaders. So this is a 26-second clip of that.
Would you imagine what a world without wars would be like? A world without the terror of approaching explosions, without rocket alarms shattering the silence of the night. Please join me this month in prayer for disarmament and peace. Let's pray and share with others.
Yeah, I'll put down my arms when there's no more enemies. It's
well,
it just seems like such a naive statement. I wish Christian was here, but
I understand the sentiment behind it, of course, and I think we should be striving towards the ideal, and we should always see the ideal in the future at some point. But I don't know of another point in history in which this would have even been conceived as a rational statement.
Right.
The
papal states have had armies in the past. I mean, the Pope has called for armies in many times throughout history.
Yes, I mean, he has called for crusades, right? And I mean, in this is obviously a very different context. He's specifically talking about Israel, Iran, and the USA to stand down in terms of this, right? But that doesn't seem. If he was more specific with his language, I wouldn't have any issue with it at all, right? If he was basically attempting to broker a peace deal between the three. But this just seems like a generic call for disarmament, which really only weakens your own people, and makes your own people defenseless, right?
It's one step removed from being a call to pacifism, which is just a morally untenable situation.
And historically was never the position of the church either.
Yeah, there have been Christian pacifists, plenty plenty of them, but they're mostly on the fringes, and they only are allowed to exist because of the non-Christian pacifists, because the ones who are willing to wage
yes,
wars.
exactly. People commit violence so that you don't have to, right? That's
Yep.
so that you have the luxury of not committing violence, of not using force. Like that's how
And
it
that
goes.
and baptism were two of the biggest reasons why sects like the Mennonites and the Anabaptists were persecuted, because these are one, they were rebaptizing, which baptism was so fundamental because baptism was kind of like the it's like a birth certificate and a baptism all in one. Like baptism was your induction into society, and so to rebaptize, to basically say your first baptism was not valid, it is like it is breaking ties with not only the church but also with the whole government institution and the way in which that churches and governments were the church functioned in a lot of the ways that nowadays we would rely on the government to do. But in terms of birth certificates, death certificates, marriage certificates, the three biggest moments in any person's life, these were all handled by the church. And so to deny the legitimacy of baptism was really you were just completely denouncing your citizenship, essentially. And so that was one big reason for the persecution. The other one was pacifism, because when you have a group of people that aren't willing to fight when called to arms, then they're freeloaders on society, and that was seen as a danger. I mean, a public risk to have a large group of people proselytizing a message of pacifism. You would put your region at risk. And so that was another reason for the rather extreme persecution in some cases.
Yeah, I mean, a couple passages here to reflect on, I guess. So we were talking about Romans, but what Romans 12:18 is, if it is possible, as much as depends on you, live peaceably with all men, which is like, that's kind of the standard, as much as you can, right? Be at peace with all men. But you have to balance that with like Ecclesiastes. There's a time for war, there's a time for peace. Christ himself saying, hey, if you don't have a sword, sell your cloak and go get one, right? So there's all these conflicting ideas, but none of it is strictly pacifistic, right? There is time to be at peace. You should strive
around with a sword only,
and that would be preferable, right?
That's right.
Now they would probably still have their undergarments on, but yeah. But yeah, it's a pacifistic interpretation of the Bible is not really tenable, right? You'd have to pick and choose and be very, very selective. But I think what sums it up most succinctly is Romans 12:18. As far as it be with you, as much as it can be with you, right? Be at peace with all men.
Yep.
Yeah, Mitzvot says, yeah, based Jesus. Yes, that's almost always true. Well, not almost always true. Sorry, always true. Always the correct answer. Okay, it's like Sunday school. It's always the correct answer. All right. Well, now let's talk about war. We have Tucker and Nick specifically. I think that's actually a good lineup there. You arranged those clips properly. Yeah. The Pope leading into Tucker, leading into Nick, and then we got silly politician man coming up. Before we do that, let's just grab this one. Ronnie for 10 says Christians pullout game ... Actually, not just Christians specifically, but all Christians pullout game should be pretty bad. I mean, we kind of need to increase the rate of Christianization. Okay.
That's right.
Thank you, Ronnie. Appreciate that. And then you, oh wait, I know what this is about.
I don't know what this is referring to.
No, you commented in one of my streams about how you pre-ordered a product that was $400, and then Amorite Boy responded to you and saying that, well, you were predestined to get scammed for $400 from it. So
yes.
Yeah, you didn't have any part to play in that. That was just predestination happening to you. Yeah. What product was it?
So it was, this is back in my compulsive gun buying days when I would just kind of buy anything that looked interesting. It was a bufferless recoil system for an AR-15. And it was just sort of like, it looked like a legit product at the time. There was at least one YouTube video out from a, ostensibly third party, but in the end, it looks like he was just, like someone who was hired to do what video, didn't have really any other videos. And I didn't realize what the lead time was going to be, or I kind of knew, but they said like, next quarter kind of thing, and ordered it. And then nothing. Email them a couple months later, got no response, and then the company just kind of completely went under. So I don't remember the name or the product, but it was, yeah, it was a learning experience.
Many such cases. That's too bad. All right. Well, here we have now. I haven't seen this full clip. Is this from one of, because he's been doing almost daily interviews on Tucker Carlson's channel. I haven't kept up with all of them, but he's been talking to everybody, putting out like as much content on the Iran-Israel war as possible. So I don't have the full context for this clip.
This was at least a week ago. I don't know exactly who he's talking to. So yeah, I don't really know the context either. But his the statement itself is absurd.
Yep. Well, actually, I'm not sure. Let me listen to it.
Unconditional surrender means foreign troops get to rape your wife and daughter if they want, and everyone knows that. And that has been, if there's one consistent lesson of history, it means unconditional surrender means foreign troops get to rape your wife and daughter. Everyone can feel that. That's like the most atavistic instinct there is. And so to avoid that, people will do anything. And so that's why it requires that level of force to get a population subdued to the point of unconditional surrender. That's why. And so in this case, of course, we don't have the ground force necessary. I don't think Americans would voluntarily participate in it. I just don't think we can do that. It would require weapons of mass destruction. It would require presumably nuclear weapons in order to do that. And let's not lie to ourselves. We're moving toward that.
I think elsewhere in that statement, I think he basically says something along the lines of, so he does not want unconditional surrender. He feels like it is wrong to call for unconditional surrender. So go ahead.
Well, so if I was going to steel man his position, historically, yeah, you don't have rights. You don't have anything if you, again, by definition, unconditional surrender. So if we look at some of the last conflicts that had a unconditional surrender. Let's take Germany, right? Russians just raped whatever people were left, basically. What they did to the Germans post-World War II, awful, horrifying. In the same way, when the Japanese, when they took over mainland China for a little while, or at least parts of China at the time, the rape of Nanking is a very famous historical thing where they just raped everyone, right? And that's what happens when, usually, historically, when foreign entities have 100% power over your local populace, right? The men are dead or imprisoned, and the women are spoils of war. You can also say that, the Americans, in a way, were not also super kind. There were some incidents post-World War II, and even still, the meme is, if you're a Marine on a base in Japan, still to this day, you get into fights and you cause problems with the local populace. So I think he's not completely off. Like, let's say China had somehow defeated the USA and had unconditional surrender here. Like, what are we supposed? Like, the point is the power dynamics, right?
Well, right.
The people have no power, and then the winner in this contest has complete power to do whatever they want. Now, do I think that we would be as animalistic as the Russians were to the Germans? No, of course not. But that is on the table. That is a chip that is on the table because you have no power in that situation once you unconditionally surrender. And I get Tucker Carlson, being in a way an entertainer or a provocateur. He's going to use the most explosive language that he can. And I don't think he's entirely wrong about the power dynamics that happen, again, when you actually truly unconditional surrender and the force that it takes to get there, right? We had to kill like 90% of Germany's men to get them to do it, and we had to drop 2 sons on Japan, right? So it's a lot of force to even get to that point in the beginning.
Right. So I think in the absence of international law, you're right. The losing party has absolutely no rights, and international law is one of those things that may or may not exist depending on how you look at it. But if it is anything, it's just sort of an instantiation or recognition of natural law, an extension of natural law. And so, if the losing party does have any fundamental human rights, those still stand even in the context of unconditional surrender. And that would only apply to a Christian nation conquering, who actually believes in this concept of human rights and natural law in that way. And so in terms of what it would, which the U.S. does, and we buy into that, so it's not a correct accusation. You're correct that historically that is often what it has meant. That is,
but are the Iranian citizens going to think that though? Like, I believe that we wouldn't
So
do that
this-
to them.
this is
but
my other
the
point.
Iranian people
right,
legitimately might.
Exactly. This is an incredibly unpatriotic statement. He is taking the side of the Iranians, which if he was Iranian, then absolutely, sure, you can say, we don't want to, if I was an American, and I am an American, and if we were about to be conquered.
Freudian slip there. Let me see your passport.
In this hypothetical. If we were being attacked and we were on the verge of surrender, I would be making a similar statement where it's like, yeah, unconditional surrender it means that we basically are completely at the mercy of our captors. However, as an American, being the good guys, ostensibly, that's the patriotic stance. We're the good guys, they're the bad guys. If we're at war, then I want nothing less than unconditional surrender from my enemies. And then it's on us to hold our soldiers to a higher standard, as we historically have done. I know that things have fallen through the cracks, but we do have much higher standards than other countries. And I want nothing less than unconditional surrender from my enemies. That is absolutely what I would push for, and it's what any good patriot should want. And so to take the Iranian side in this conflict is fundamentally unpatriotic.
Well, but do we necessarily, like, what is the Americans' goal in this war? And I still don't know, because if it is truly unconditional surrender, then drop a nuke on Tehran and it's over. Right? I mean, if that's what it is, then we can get that. We know how to get that done in relatively short order. But I actually don't know if that is our goal. And I don't know if even as Americans, we need to be arguing for that level of death.
No, I mean, I think we want unconditional
Iranians.
surrender from the current regime, and then there will be a new regime. The people that we have pegged as our enemies are not the Iranian people; it's the government, the Iranian government.
Well, but
so
again, the government isn't going much like the Japanese in World War II. Again, to go back to a historical example, we used their citizens as a very dark chess piece. Right? This is a bargaining chip. All right, we have two sons. And we can make a couple more if you would like, right? And I defend the two nukes, all right? If we had done a land invasion in Japan, it would have been far worse for our own people and possibly even higher civilian casualties in the long run, right?
But saying that we want unconditional surrender is not saying that we want unconditional surrender by any means necessary, right? That's not what Trump said or what Tucker is pushing against.
What's the minimum amount of force in just your ideal scenario? Like, what's the minimum amount of force to get an unconditional surrender? Right?
I mean, usually it takes a lot.
I know, that's what I'm saying. It's a lot.
To be nukes, but yeah, I mean, it's probably going to be more than just
land
air
invasion.
Power. Yeah,
is it a land invasion?
It usually requires boots on the ground of some sort. You can't usually change a regime with just air power. So I don't know exactly, and I'm not saying that that's what we should do. I'm just saying, realistically. Now, hopefully, those boots aren't ours. Just practically, I'm not looking for a U.S. invasion. Hopefully, Israel or the Kurds or someone can, but just realistically, I don't know exactly how you do it with just air power. So that's a separate question. But in terms of just ideally, do I want my enemies to surrender unconditionally? Absolutely, yes. Now we can get into the practical implications of exactly what that looks like. But
I mean,
that doesn't seem like a controversial statement.
I don't know if it has to be that way though, because like you could say that we're like geopolitically enemies with China or with Russia, right? We have different end goals in mind. Our end states are different. But I don't necessarily desire unconditional surrender at all points in time. Like even throughout history in other wars, there were, off ramps offered at different points and, different diplomacies that happened before an unconditional surrender. And honestly, I would say that I would think anyways that true unconditional surrender is kind of not the norm. Usually there's some sort of treaty signed after, winning territories or land. Like even in, like think about Russia, Ukraine. Like as if Ukraine wanted to sign off a bunch of their territory, the war would be over, right? They just don't want to do that. So I don't know if it's our patriotic duty to argue for the level of force that it's going to take to achieve unconditional surrender.
That's a fair point. What I'm saying is, all things being equal, I want my enemies to surrender unconditionally. Now, one of the things that would not be equal is the duration of the engagement or whatever other bargaining chips are on the table. Those would start to make things not equal. And so there might be cases absolutely for an earlier negotiation that is less than unconditional surrender, but is ultimately in our favor.
Well, yeah, because I would argue I want the least amount of violence possible that achieves our end goals, right?
Yeah,
and as now, I still don't know what our end goal truly is, right?
Yeah,
if it is regime change, which again seems to vary by the day, because Trump will say, "Oh, we're almost done," or "It's going to be over." So, is there negotiations, or is he just filibuster? Like, I don't know.
It's unclear to me
I don't
exactly
know.
what
As
the
the
end goal
American
is either.
citizen,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But no, I get what you're saying about it's fine to wish your enemies unconditional surrender, of course. But I just think that from a practical level, do we have to argue for? I mean, it ain't. I'm gonna be real. It ain't gonna be Israel putting boots on the ground. As far as I'm aware, they didn't do any boots on the ground for any of the Iraq, Afghanistan, or other conflicts that we were a part of in the Middle East. As far as I'm aware, I don't think they put
I
any.
think their prime minister was opposed to the war in Iraq at the time. I don't know all the history going back there. I'm not really an expert on that time period, but I mean, I don't think they wanted to. I don't think they were really they weren't really co-belligerents in that war, as I understand it. It certainly favored them or helped them in certain respects, but I don't think that it's really a fair,
Well, actually,
or
just
one-to-one analogy.
well, even in this case, though, how would they put boots on the ground? They would have to use American ships through the Gulf or go through what's the country in between them? I'm blanking on the name. The one that's right in between them. That's the buffer zone.
Saudi Arabia.
My geography is off.
My geography's
My
not great
apologies.
either. Yeah.
I know that there is a country separating Israel and Iran. What is the name of that country? And it always just sits there getting. Is it Jordan? Yes. Yes, it's Jordan. Yes, Jordan. Okay, so Jordan separates Israel and Iran, right? So they have to go through Jordan, and they're not
and Iraq really too, right?
Well, Iraq's to the north, isn't it?
No, if you were going to get from Israel to Iran, you would have to go through Iraq.
No, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
Or,
So you have to
or
go
take the sea.
Jordan. Well, Jordan, Syria, and Iraq are all kind of in the way when you look at it. But yeah, so I mean, you could move via U.S. ships into the Gulf, right? You could do that. But then it would be a co-land invasion, and I don't even know how that would work.
I mean, we're already bombing them, so it's not like we're definitely involved no matter what. Yeah. I mean, again, I'm not trying to get into a politics.
Well, and how does the country
what we're trying to achieve or what we're supposed to do? But
when it comes to unconditional surrender, it has to be a ground invasion or nukes, right? I mean, I think those are the two options. And if it's a ground invasion, it's our soldiers in harm's way. Because how big of a military does Israel even have? Like, obviously, it's conscripts, but it's only 9 million people versus 90 million people in Iran, and it's going to be us, right? And so I think it's fine to argue that unconditional surrender is not optimal for the American soldier or the American population, because it's at the end of the day we're also paying for it all as well, not just in terms of the munitions, but in terms of the political capital come midterms and next election, but also in terms of just everyday prices between energy, gas, basic components coming out of the strait. Like there's a lot of things that it negatively affects the average American, and I still don't know entirely what the benefit is yet.
Right. So I guess here's a silly analogy, but an analogy nonetheless. If you're going to a dealership and you're looking, all things being equal, I mean, like all prices being equal, do you want the Ferrari or do you want the Honda Civic? Well, if the prices were the same, you probably get the Ferrari. I mean, assuming you don't need it for more practical reasons. But obviously, you're not willing to pay any cost to get the Ferrari, and so most of the time, you're going to leave with the Honda Civic. So, the idea that getting a Ferrari is a bad thing is akin to what Tucker Carlson is saying here, that unconditional surrender from our enemies, which is assuming we're the good guys, that's a good thing for us. And to say otherwise, again, I just think is fundamentally unpatriotic. And there is a tacit accusation of U.S. military in this kind of a statement, that for us, unconditional surrender means we get to rape their wives and children. And that is simply not the way that our troops operate.
I would hope
an
that,
ideal
yes.
world. That is not our policy. Obviously, there are exceptions, but those are those are failing to meet our standards. They're not our standards. And he is acting as if our standards are such that unconditional surrender to us means we get to do whatever we want, like, as if we were the Russians in World War II. And we're not.
I mean, yes, but if the ground invasion involves IDF soldiers have been known to commit a little bit of wartime rape from from time to time. So maybe the Iranians are not quite totally unjustified in their fears.
Like I said, I wouldn't have a problem with the statement if it was coming from someone who was more loyal to Iran than to the United States. So maybe I shouldn't take issue with Tucker saying this.
Oh, you think Tucker's more? That's not fair. Saying he's more loyal to Iran.
No,
I think he doesn't like the war, which is fine. Well, hey, about now this is a take I have not heard at all yet. All right, so we know Tucker, he's working hard in his anti-war stance, and it is actually interesting the way that the MAGA movement has flipped. It is now essentially spearheaded by people like Mark Levin and who's that other woman, Laura Loomer, and a few of these other people who were essentially never Trumpers, war hawks. I mean, even Ben Shapiro is now like lauding Trump for his accomplishments in the Middle East, and he famously a never Trumper for like 8 years. And the people who were quote unquote MAGA, like Tucker, like Alex Jones, like some of these other guys who were big proponents of Trump, it's like switched, right? Everybody switched teams over the Iran issue. So politically, I think it's been a disaster, and I think we'll see the ramifications of that later on this year.
Right.
Iran is fighting for all the goyim here, because it's the open-ended question is, does Israel control the whole world? If Iran vetoes that, then the answer is no. If Iran falls, then the answer is yes. If Israel can destroy a regime that's fortified inside of a mountain behind thousands of missiles and proxies and 1 million soldiers, well, they could get anybody and they can have anything they want. And if they can't, it means the world is still free.
All right, what do you think about that opening statement?
I am in favor of us being able to exert as much power as we can around the world. I'm not an isolationist or really even opposed to the concept of empire at this point. I say bring on the old empire, and I'm okay with us being able to enact our will around the globe. Generally speaking, there are bounds, and I'm not saying that we should do everything that we don't need to be the world police in the way that we have tried to be in the past. But in general, like what we did to Maduro, I don't really have an issue with that, and I don't.
Well, yeah, there's times where it works out
here.
really good, like really good for the American people, the American empire, whatever you want to call it, like us, right? It works out really well. And there's times where it goes disastrously bad.
He's essentially saying that if we were to succeed in Iran, then we have so violated the principles of I guess some vague principles of freedom, so that at which point we've lost the moral high ground, I guess. I'm not sure exactly what he's.
Well, he's saying that this is at Israel's behest, right? And so if Israel can manipulate its way into removing all of its, 8-front war that it's currently on, if it can use us as sort of the sledgehammer against its enemies, and it can exert its will, because again, this war is. You can make arguments, of course, for American interests. In the last 40 years, there's definitely been a portion of the American populace, the American political class that has argued for the war for a long, long time, of course, back to the 80s. But if that Israel is at this time allowed to get away with it, essentially, or to win in a way, which would be total regime change using the American military, like that is so that's a pretty big flex, right? If you're able to drag because Israel's not as powerful as we are, of course, right? They could not take out Iran without us. If they are able to manipulate us in a way to sort of force our hand, right, which I think is the way it's been phrased, to get us to take out someone as powerful, as entrenched as Iran, there's really not too many other players on the table, right? Because you got Russia and China left at that point. And I think, I think Nick is way oversimplifying it here, because Russia and China are, I view China as kind of a wild card in all of this. We'll see how they play, and everybody's relationship with Israel is kind of in flux. even the USA, right? Because the more we do for them, the more like public pushback and the more like, I mean, you can just look it up in terms of people who view Israel in a negative light. You know, it's gone from like 30% a few years ago up to over half. It's like 54% of American youth view Israel as a net negative to the world, you know? And so the more they spend of their political capital in a war in Iran, because they're also doing that, the more the world looks at them with, you know, a little bit more problematic maybe. So I think that everything is currently in flux. And if they get what they want in Iran, maybe Israel's happy with the political capital that they've spent. Although again, I think at some point that's going to run out. It has to at some point.
Yeah, but looking at it from a U.S. perspective, I mean, I think that Trump is trying to fundamentally rewrite or redraw the map and just fundamentally change the geopolitical status, and whether or not the new world order, not to coin a phrase, will be better than the old one. That has to be seen. But Iran has been an enemy of the United States ever since this regime took over. And, you know, so if he can solve the Iran issue and remove that from the political forefront, then I think there's a very strong case to be made for that being a better situation.
I mean, it is possible, right? I just, the worst case scenario that I have in my head is that there is some sort of boots on the ground engagement, and it drags us into another 20-year war.
No one wants that. Everyone is afraid
and then
of that.
the end state is that 3 presidents down the road, we end up just kind of leaving
like
with the job half done. And it's like, we got nothing out of this. You know, we destabilized the region. We lost 100,000 soldiers, and 20 years on, you know, and now everybody hates us, and you know, making the board worse, right?
Yeah,
that's the worst the worst outcome possible here.
Well, and you're not the only one to be. I mean, you know, it does seem like history, if it doesn't repeat itself, it at least rhymes, and so there's a lot of people that are really concerned about that. Trump being one of them, if you believe his rhetoric at all. I mean, he ran on a platform of no more endless wars, so I think Trump is one of the first to say he doesn't want that either. No,
and listen, if he actually does get it done somehow magically, and we're out of it before the end of March here, like, I would be shocked. Okay, I would be shocked if there was a positive resolution in a short time frame, right? I mean, even, you know, U.S. intelligence is saying be prepped for September, which is a lot longer than what was initially promised. The first day it was like initially it was a 4-day operation. Was what Trump said in his first address, right? Was a 4-day operation, and we're currently in week 3. So,
I feel it was very early on when they were saying 5 to 6 weeks. I don't remember exactly when they started saying that. But.
I think it was one of the because like we were watching it live. We watched President Trump's address live when it was happening, when he posted the truth. And I think at some point within the first couple hours, it was a U.S.-Israel joint 4-day operation. Obviously, it's expanded since then.
So I'm rooting for Iran to survive. I'm rooting for Trump to walk away. I'm rooting for deterrence to be reestablished. This is not a war, ironically, that we want to win. This is maybe a war that it's better if we lose. Better if we have a strategic defeat. So I think the best case scenario now is for Trump to walk away. Walk away, be done with it. Destroy their military and then claim victory, whatever you need to do, and then walk away, be done with it.
Now that is a potential off-ramp, right? If I'm trying to steelman his position, if we lose, then it means that Israel does not have the power to manipulate us into a regime change, you know, basically anywhere in the world, right? They played that card, and hopefully it doesn't get played again. Because again, if this sets a precedent that they can drag us into a conflict, not necessarily totally against our will, but at least up the time scale, whatever it might be, then at some point in the future, let's say, okay, well, now it's not Iran, and now it's Russia, now it's, you know, somebody else that's going to be a lot more devastating to the world order, right? To our normal way of life. So I mean, I could see you making an argument for some potential future negative scenario, right?
I think you've touched on it. I think that you have touched on the crux of the issue for Nick. Nick is, he's not America first. He's very much Israel first in reverse. Everything that It's all in terms of
Israel first,
Israel.
in
And so as
reserves.
long as it hurts Israel, then it's good for Nick. And so if it means America losing to hurt Israel, that's worth it for Nick. I mean, it is. It's just it's Israel first in reverse, and that's Nick's whole vibe at this point. That is his stance. And I think if you just look at the positions he takes, that rule of thumb, that heuristic will apply quite well. It'll be very predictive in terms of his future stances as well. And I just think it's so unpatriotic. I just have such contempt for this kind of rhetoric.
Well, I'm kind of interested because we both agree that our government could be capable of doing awful things. So, like, I could see an operation put up by the Democrats. I don't know, just name your catastrophe, in which I could want them to fail, right? And you could say, well, that's unpatriotic, wanting your country to fail. But it's like, well, kind of, but I think that the outcomes are going to have like really negative repercussions on us in the future, right? So we almost kind of need to fail in this endeavor so that it doesn't happen.
But
that's what happens.
We both agree, and I don't think Nick would, but we both agree that there are positive outcomes to be had, whether they're unlikely, but there can be, right? That's where we're at, and I think that's where the majority of the population is. We want them to achieve those positive outcomes. That's what we should be rooting for. Nick is just so far beyond that. He doesn't see that as even a possibility. But even if you oppose the war in strategically or for practical reasons, the die is cast. And once your country goes to war, I agree. There are extenuating circumstances where you could say this is an unjust war in all ways, in which case I hope we back out. Now, so in principle, I'm not saying that what he's saying is inherently absurd. I just don't think it fits the situation.
Well, so I wonder if we play a little bit of theory crafting here. If what is the negative repercussions of Trump claiming the moral victory and just being done with it tomorrow? What's the bad thing that happens?
In theory, the Iranians could get the idea that whenever they want to enforce their will on the world, they just close the Strait of Hormuz and they'll get whatever they want. And
well, so we claim a moral victory, they claim a moral victory, but I mean, theoretically, if we pull out, they could still try and keep the strait closed, so we could pull out and get no benefit from pulling out, right? But if the only way to settle things down or to drop the tensions is for us to stop, because I don't think Israel will continue without us.
Right. I mean, this is where it's tough to know exactly what the facts are on the ground, but from what I can see, it seems like, despite what some of the media will tell you, we are just shellacking the Iranian forces, and so I think that if we were to back out now, it would look like a rather inglorious withdrawal that I don't think would be worth it. So just my realpolitik evaluation is that it would ultimately look like we backed out because the Iranians were putting economic pressure on us, and we weren't willing to take it. We didn't have the wherewithal or the fortitude to finish the job. So I think that could be really bad.
Well, right, but in real terms, we have actually crippled a lot of their infrastructure, right? Not their oil infrastructure, but in terms of military, a lot of their launchers, all of their air defenses, tons of their aircraft. They still have, as far as we're aware, missile production and drone production, because the facilities are located underground where it's difficult for us to reach them with airborne munitions. But we have absolutely, I'm pretty sure almost all of their fighters are down or in hiding currently. Right. So they truly don't have, they are at a reduced capacity right now, for sure.
And I think we're going around and kind of retargeting targets that we've already hit, but kind of making, putting the finishing shots in it to make sure that they really are dead, and making sure that we really have crippled their, assuming they did actually have some, we're working towards nuclear weaponry, we can incapacitate them in that regard. And, so I do think that we probably could back out pretty soon and be in a really strong position. I just wouldn't want to do so on the heels of them sort of playing their last card, which is closing the Strait of Hormuz, and backing down as what would seem like a result of that, and would give them a great propaganda victory. And that just seems like
I agree with that. Yeah, opening the Strait of Hormuz with force, though, is what puts the most American soldiers in peril, right? Because you're going to have to do some sort of land operation. You're going to have American ships in the area where they are going to be in missile range, where they are going to be in drone range. And that's the biggest potential loss of life is going to be opening the Strait of Hormuz with force.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, and
Tough
the juice
situation.
might not be worth the squeeze, but yeah.
Yeah.
Put Israel in their place. And here's how you know it's really fucked up. Oil prices have skyrocketed. It's hurting us. It's hurting everybody. Israel is bombing Iran's oil. What are you going to do that for? Oil prices are $120 a barrel on Sunday, and we have not hit Iran.
Now, I did check this. It's been actually relatively stable, around $95 a barrel, which is still up from, I believe it was $80 previously, but relatively stable. You know, this is not,
initial
not
spike
terrible.
and then it went back
Yep.
down. It's
Yeah. And so I'm not sure when was this? Was this a few days ago? Because if this 6 days ago, this is about a week ago. Yeah. So there was a big spike, of course, with all the international shipping issues, and it's still going to be high until we can fix this issue and get through the backlog. But yeah, $95 is what it's currently sitting at. So it's kind of stabilized in that region, which is not horrifying.
Iran's oil in the hopes that they will not hit our oil in the Gulf. And what does Israel do? They bomb Iran's oil, which makes it an energy war. And you go, really? We're already fighting your war. The one way this hurts us is with energy, and they want to make it hurt for us more. They hate us. So it's time to be done and walk away. Well, Israel and the U.S. do not have an identical agenda. And that's why last year, Israel got us on the hook in a war by telling us, well, first of all, they launched a preemptive strike. They launched a preemptive strike against Iran's nuclear facilities. Israel claimed that Iran was on the cusp of getting the bomb. And
well, that's been the claim for, 40 years, basically. What was I going to say there? Shoot. Now, Israel actually does have a part to play because it was reported that Trump asked them specifically not to hit Iran's infrastructure. But if Israel wants to continue the escalation to basically keep us in for as long, because it's beneficial for them the more we do to Iran, right? Of course, like the more damage we do to Iran, the better it is for Israel. The reduced capacity they have to hit Israel. Like, obviously, it's just better for Israel. So if Israel wants to keep this going and escalate, they can just, all right, well, we're going to hit your oil infrastructure and keep, doing damage to you and forcing you to retaliate more, which is just going to cause everything to get more hectic in the region, right? And again, that benefits Israel. So do I blame them for doing that? I don't know. It's fine, I guess.
And I will say too that the I know that it's become such a meme that the meme of imminent threat and the they were this close to getting a nuclear weapon, and I totally understand the actual proximity or the actual proximity of getting a nuclear weapon is perhaps dubious, but it is a really serious thing, a really important principle that we do not let Iran get a nuclear weapon, because as soon as any country that is an avowed enemy of the United States, which Iran is unequivocally, I mean, they are, they call us the Great Satan. Israel is the little Satan. We're the Great Satan. They shout death to America. Once they get a nuclear weapon, that basically ensures that, short of some kind of covert operation, we're able to go in and just sort of really quickly seize it. It ensures that they will always be a major player on the world stage, right? That's what happens when you have nukes. You have a bargaining chip that we're just not willing to. We're not going to risk a hypersonic missile being launched at one of our cities. It is really important that Iran does not get a nuclear weapon.
I am curious, though, if Iran does have a nuclear weapon, is there a world in which that causes everyone to back off?
I mean, yeah,
right,
but that's not a good situation. Like, that's not a more positive situation to be in. Unless you're just blaming the evil of the Iranian regime on everyone else, which I think is
no, I'm not saying that,
but
like, would they actually be retarded? Like, I mean, Pakistan and India have nukes, right? I mean, would Iran actually be? Because a nuclear bomb being used by anyone is just mutually assured destruction. You're just going to be turned into glass, right? But I think that it is like a nuclear bomb is just like a, no one's allowed to attack me card, basically. Like that's what it is, So would it actually, is there a world in which it would be a net positive if?
But it doesn't mean that fighting doesn't happen. Look at Russia and Ukraine. People still wage war even in a nuclear state. They just do it differently, and everyone has that final trump card.
Does Ukraine have nuclear weapons?
I assume they do, but I don't know for sure. I mean,
okay, because I was saying if it's a nuclear country, like a nuclear country always has the option to attack a non-nuclear country, like whenever they feel like it, right? Because the other country does not have the deterrent.
Yeah, I don't know
right,
if Ukraine has nukes or not.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine they get one. I don't know. I don't know how all their treaties work for that, because I know that stuff is like very, very fought over. Yeah, Ukraine does not have a bomb. Yeah, so that's a nuclear country attacking a non-nuclear country. So there's no deterrent there in place. So yeah,
I don't know. Call me crazy, but I think that a nuke in the hands of the country that says
it's like having
America and has a propensity for terroristic violence. That just doesn't sound like a good combination.
It's like giving a gun to a 5-year-old. Okay, is it a deterrent? Yes. Is it funny? Also yes. But the dangers are very high. Isn't there a Borat joke about that? It's like giving a monkey a gun, which we haven't done since the slaughter of '93 or something like that.
I will say, Full Metal Jacket, I couch my statements probably more than I should. I have a lot of what they call rhetorical throat clearings to make sure that I'm not saying anything crazy. So I'm not claiming to know all that much about the facts on the ground. But I don't think anything I've said here is particularly transgressive or beyond the pale.
America has it and has used it and makes bad decisions every day. Yeah, but that's our country. That's the difference, is we're allowed to make mistakes, right?
Maybe by attacking Iran, they accelerated that timeline. By attacking Iran, maybe Iran resolved that they would build a nuke. Or maybe they would lower the guardrails and they would get closer to building a nuke. So we had to go in and finish the job. If Israel didn't finish the job, if they accelerated it, we had to shut it down. We had to drop bombs that Israel doesn't have to destroy facilities they couldn't reach at Fordo and Natanz. That's how they got us on the hook. And once we were on the hook, well, what did Iran do after the war? They went right back to work rebuilding their capabilities, rebuilding their strategic capabilities, building more missiles, building more drones, rebuilding their nuclear facilities. Apparently, they had facilities that we did not know about, centrifuges we didn't know about.
I mean, when you think about it, that is Iran's only option, right? Because they do exist at our benevolence. It's just, do we have the political capital, the political will to regime change, right? Which is going to take force. So it's kind of like a race against time, or a race against the American election system, basically, right? For Iran, if they can somehow get a nuke or just hold out, right? All they have to do is just hold out.
If I was putting myself in the shoes of the Iranian Ayatollahs, then sure, absolutely, go for the nuke. Now, I do think that the Iranian people have different priorities and different preferences. I think they would probably like to just live in peace and out from under the thumb of the tyrannical regime. But as a general rule, I don't put myself in the shoes of my avowed enemies and the people that hate me. I don't feel the need to. I don't feel the need to justify their actions from their perspective.
Well, come on, Art of War, you got to understand yourself and your enemy, okay?
No, understand is different from justify.
Well, it's not justifying, but seeing it from their perspective to see what, like, obviously for them it makes sense. Well, but realizing that they have no option but to hold out, but to build a bomb, right? That is their only light, is to either hold out long enough to where American political will changes and we stop, or to get a deterrent, right? That's really their only two ways out. So they're never going to stop because of the position that we've essentially put them in,
They do have another option, though. They could just stop being anti-Western. And then they wouldn't need a nuclear weapon because then they wouldn't be our avowed enemies. If they stopped shouting death to America and just go back to being old Persia, then they can be a great country.
How do they stop that, though? Like, what if the Ayatollah comes out and is like, you know what, guys, we're no longer anti-West. You can stop bombing us now. Pinky promise. Like,
I think we're beyond that point with the Ayatollahs. They're going to have to go down.
Well, but again, we have to kill them.
Yeah.
And well, that's the thing. They're never going to step down. So we have to. So that is if that is the game that's being played, I think Iran has actually a better than 50% shot of remaining Iran, right? Of remaining under the Ayatollah. Because, again, political will in America changes. And if we're not getting anything out of it, I mean, it's already been disastrous for Trump's poll numbers. I mean, he's sitting at like 24% or something like awful in terms of his approval rating. Can we perfectly regime change in the next, let's say, 3 years, 2.5 years, and it's going to be a boots on the ground invasion that may or may not go well. I mean, there's a lot of pieces on the table now. There's a lot of other things to consider.
Yeah, and I do not want a drawn out conflict, so hopefully that's not what we're in for.
And we could not ascertain the extent of the damage and therefore the success of the strike. So by bombing them once, it guaranteed we would come back because we had to be sure that they were not rebuilding, that they could not reconstitute. We had to be sure that they might not launch a preemptive strike against Israel or us or the Gulf. So now we're back at war. And as we talked about last night, there's a big open-ended question specifically about what our goal is in Iran in this current operation.
Let's be honest, Trump has way too much pride to lead the war at this moment. Has there ever been a time where we have heard Trump say...
All right, we don't need this guy's commentary.
I honestly forgot that we were... when I have it set up like this, it looks like he's on the panel, exactly. Which is hilarious. But yeah, I love the Clips channel that like don't say anything at all. They just let like 6 minutes play and then say something mildly interesting. Although when you think about it, on a long enough time scale... Right, everybody's going to be nuclear at some point. Everybody, it's kind of an inevitability.
I don't know.
How do you solve the energy crisis? It's nuclear, right? I mean that is the future at some point, right?
You can
on a long enough
sell
time
energy,
scale,
right? In the same way that we do with oil right now, so you can have nuclear countries that provide energy to other countries.
Yeah, but in the same way, we would have to be almost even more interconnected than we are now because you would
we're
have
going
to have,
more
like, physical power.
Yeah, we're heading towards globalization in one way or another. Just hopefully we can get some form of a more federal global.
Well, how many countries have nuclear capability? Like what, 20, 30?
Yeah, you have to Google that one.
It
is cold out here.
It's
not
actually only 9. It's only 9 right now. Really? I didn't realize that. I thought it was more than that. Yeah. So United States, Russia, UK, France, China, India, Pakistan, North Korea, and then number 9 is Israel, though it's not officially acknowledged because they're not a part of any of the treaties that anybody else is a part of, which is funny.
Do they have their own nukes, or they just got nukes from us, or
they took their fissile material from us in the 60s, right? And
but they have the tech. They develop a lot of the tech. Anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, the Jews are the ones who kind of invented this stuff.
Yeah.
Largely, there were some
Oppenheimer and some of the other guys. Yeah. Operation Paperclip. Don't forget.
Yesterday, Trump said, "We've completed our objectives. We're ahead of schedule, and the war is almost over." But then in the same day, he said it's far from over. It's going to go on for more weeks. We're not going to be done by the end of this week, but soon, maybe later after that. He said, we're going to hit them harder than ever. We'll accept nothing less than unconditional surrender. So the question is, what is the strategic goal in this operation? When is it mission accomplished? When are we done? And Washington won't tell us. Is it regime change, or is it just degrading their military? Now, when Trump announced the operation 2 weeks ago, he said, we want to topple the government. Iran is a pariah terror state. They have to be destroyed. Last week, he said, we're going to topple the regime. It's an unconditional surrender. They can't pick a new leader without my approval. I have to appoint the next leader. At the same time, he's saying, we've destroyed their equipment. We've killed their personnel. We're getting ready to wrap it up. Now, here comes the divergence. Now that the war has dragged on for 11 days, you're starting to see that this is becoming a quagmire for the United States. We're not going to be able to topple the government if that was ever a strategic objective. We don't know what the original plan was. We don't know what the plan is now. But if the goal ever was toppling the government, that didn't ever seem likely. And it didn't happen in the first week, and it seems very unlikely now. It's not going to happen. You can't dislodge an entrenched regime with a 1 million-man army with bombs from the air. It just isn't done.
Yeah, that was
if
the point
we
I was trying
wanted
make
to
earlier.
actually,
I think that it is really hard to actually affect regime change with just air power alone. So at some point, someone's boots are going to have to hit the ground. Ideally, it would be some combination of the Kurds and the Iranian people, rising up from within. It doesn't seem particularly realistic. It seems like wishing upon a star at that point. But
everybody that I've ever talked to that was in the military that talks about a boots on the ground Iran invasion says this is like nightmare level. All right. Yeah. The geography is horrible. It's going to be like the Russians in Afghanistan. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be a good time for anyone involved, which means American casualties, right? And when anytime somebody mentions that, it's going to be American casualties, which again, I see the further it goes, like you can off ramp at any point, right? If you off ramp now, you're going to take a public L, and then Iran's going to take that as a morale boost, and it's just they're going to continue down their path of militarization and nuclearization, or at least attempting to get that way. If we go even further, right, it's like the risk and reward gets even better. So if we put boots on the ground, we could regime change, we could get the positive outcome, or alternatively, we could spend hundreds of thousands of soldiers, tens of thousands of soldiers' lives, whatever it ends up being, billions, trillions of dollars, and did not get the regime change after 20 years, right? So like the further we go down, the risk and the rewards get worse and worse, right? They get further and further apart.
The best case scenario in my mind is keep taking out whoever is, the next in line, keep taking out the people at the very top of the food chain within the regime until you get someone who is going to be, they could even be from within the same regime, but who's willing to pivot and move away from their anti-Western, anti-American stance. Similar to what happened with Maduro, right? Maduro was taken out, and then his VP took over and said, "Okay, now we're gonna play ball with the Americas because she doesn't want to get killed." It's amazing how that can be a strong motivator. That I think is actually a realistic scenario, and I think that is best case scenario. I would love to see something like that happen. And I think that's basically what we're pursuing, but we'll see if it actually works.
Yeah, if you need to step away for a minute, I can enter the chat, James.
You can keep going with this chat or with this clip or talk to do some chats. I'll be back in like 2 minutes.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I mean it is interesting, right? I think that we just have to keep killing Ayatollahs until we evolve one, right? It's just a process of evolution. Eventually, we'll get an Ayatollah that's favorable to the U.S., to the West in general, right? I think that's the logic there. I mean, that is a possibility. I mean, the next one, right, the one that's currently in charge, I forget the guy's name because it's not a Western name, so I'm not interested in learning how to pronounce it, but he is allegedly gay, although that just might be American propaganda, Western propaganda, right? So, I mean, if he's gay, he might already be more pro-West than the last one, than Khamenei was, right? So we simply don't know. Tom, hope you're having a good night. Yeah, off the cardboard Ayatollah. Yeah. When did James get a massage check? Yeah, I got a 7K deposited today, actually. Yes. No, but I mean, Nick is a very coherent speaker, right? He's well versed in geopolitics. He knows the area. His recall is quite good, and he's good at talking to a crowd. Like Nick is really good on this stuff. You might be disagree with his positions or with his desires, right? But I think Nick is simply taking the earliest off ramp for the U.S., which will do the least damage to the U.S. Position worldwide. That's his argument, anyways. You could say that, well, we need military interdiction to clear up the Strait of Hormuz, or we need to actually enforce regime change, which is going to be the bloodiest option. Or like James was saying, if we just keep killing Ayatollahs until one comes in that likes the U.S. and likes the West, then maybe that is another possible good option. Maybe not likely. I feel like while that is possible, the more of them we kill, the less tenable it is for them to side with us or to be more amenable to us. I think that kind of cheapens the position or makes it more difficult, because the difference with, at least as far as I see it, between Iran and Venezuela, right, with Maduro, is that Venezuela is a lot closer, it's a lot smaller, and does not have the entrenched hatred of the US, and its people aren't as united, right? Whereas Iran's people have hated America for a long time. They're ostensibly more united. They've been dealing with issues like this for a long, long time. So it's a totally different geopolitical scenario. You know, and obviously we're a lot closer to them. We have a lot more power over them. It's different. John is our Goebbels. You mean Goebbels? Technically, isn't this James? This is James' project that myself and Christian kind of signed on to. So he wanted to do a show that is more theological and also has obviously politics and day-to-day stuff that we're going to get into. After this, we have the funniest part of the show personally, which is James Tallarico and his Heresy maxing, right? That I put in the title there. And his stuff is absolutely hilarious. Very, very funny. Isn't it the greatest irony that Nick is Hispanic and his name has Jewish ancestry in Spain? Well, I mean, he's his dad's half Mexican, so that makes him 25% Mexican, which, listen, you know, close enough, okay? Close enough. If somebody's like, "Oh, I'm 12% something or other," I don't care. You know, I'm not gonna be the guy to be like, "Actually, no, you're not white enough for me," and Mr. Swarthoid over here. Oh, hey, what a resounding endorsement from Mr. Foe. Hope you're having a good night, sir, again. Yeah. All right, well, if there's nothing else that you want to cover here on this, I think we've kind of exhausted Nick's opinion on this. And, you know, interesting that I will say that it has been like, he said we were 11 days into the war, so that was like 13 days ago when he actually aired that clip. And not much has really changed. You know, we're still trying to not hit Iran's oil all that much. Israel's kind of doing their own thing, but yeah, nothing has really changed, and we're kind of getting more entangled as time goes on. We've got burning freighters in the Strait of Hormuz right now, so it certainly hasn't calmed down at all.
Yep. Update. This is actually pretty good. I don't know if I'd give it my full-throated endorsement, but it's decent for it's only about, I think I got this for $50 in North Carolina. Of course, your mileage may vary because of taxes and just local prices, but not a bad deal.
Is North Carolina good for alcohol prices, or do they have a lot of silly taxes on it?
So the taxes aren't that bad. The it is state controlled, so it's you know, what they call the ABC stores is the liquor store. It's all run by they're run by the counties, but it's controlled and it's like allocated by the state. So there's complications there, and it's frustrating. It's not like some states where you can just get it in the grocery store. But fortunately, the taxes aren't that bad.
Hey, Jake, hope you're having a good night. Hope you had a great Tuesday so far, brother. Brothers! Well, how about let's talk about a little bit of Heresy maxing. So this one is a sermon by James Tallarico, who is like a vat-made gay Pete Buttigieg,
so
right?
Yeah, so he's not, you know, ostensibly he's not actually gay, but
he's
I've heard
somehow more gay.
Many people refer to him as the gay Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah. Well, this one I didn't have a timestamp. Should we just watch the beginning? Is the beginning of this really good?
Is this the long one? Is this?
This is the 18-minute 36. I have the other.
Let's do some of the ones with the
timestamp, the shorts.
Yeah,
okay.
This one I think is one where we could probably actually watch the whole thing, maybe at sped up a little bit, but there's so much there. But let's just watch some of the clips.
Okay. So this one here starting at or only to 36 seconds. Okay, my bad. Okay, so now this is James Tallarico declaring that God the Father is non-binary, which is straight up heresy maxing. Let's go. Frame mogging the Bible.
So Kamala Harris now supporting Texas Senate candidate James Tallarico after her Jasmine Crockett endorsement didn't work out too well. As critics are...
I do have to say, though, before we get into Tallarico, Crockett losing was hilarious, super funny, and
Hilarious, but
deserved.
totally deserved, totally hilarious, totally, great. Except somehow Tallarico is worse. And Crockett was pretty fun to make fun of, so I'm sad to no longer have her to make fun of.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
I'm gonna miss her.
Warning, Texans, this is the guy you voted for.
Our southern border should be like our front porch. There should be a giant welcome mat out front. There are...
And we shoot anyone who comes in without permission. Right? Right,
Yeah.
James? Right, Mr. Tallarico? We shoot anyone who doesn't come in without permission. I mean, on base. Okay, base. Yeah, let's go.
many more than 2 biological sexes. In fact, there are 6. God is both...
What?
Don't ask me. I don't
Sorry.
know. Let's look it up. What are the 6 biological
What?
sexes?
Okay, listen, I've heard it's a spectrum, which implies like
No,
nearly
there are
infinity.
6.
I've
Yeah,
heard
no.
72, which is ironic. That's the same number of virgins that, Muslims will get in the afterlife, of
But
course.
this isn't gender. This is biological sexes.
Yeah, 6 biological
6
sexes.
biological sexes.
Or maybe he's saying that he's had 6 biological sex in his
6
life.
experiences.
6.
Oh
wait, is it a Jewish? Because I know somebody said in Judaism there is like delineations between different sexes, and I'm not.
I think he's just. I mean, I don't know what the 6 he's talking about is, and Google doesn't either. But maybe. Maybe he's talking about, like, obviously he would include intersex in there, and then there's some other sort of genetic disorders where you don't have just an XX or an XY. So
Well,
I guess
if you're talking about hermaphrodites, it's like 0.1% of the
that
population.
doesn't
It's like
matter.
one
It's
every
still
100,000.
legit. As long as you can.
Yeah, but that's
point
just
to
a
one.
biological. It's a biological anomaly. It's like people born without a left hand. You're still a human. You're not some
You
sort
didn't
of
know that hands exist on a spectrum? Yeah,
It's true. Yes. All right. If we all exist on a
We're
spectrum.
all
I'm
on
on
a
the
spectrum. I mean,
I'm on
trust
the
me,
autism
we're
spectrum.
both on
all
the
right.
spectrum,
I'm on a
so.
different spectrum.
Yeah. No.
6 genders. Wow.
No. 6 biological sexes. That's what he said, right? Did I hear him wrong?
Well, here it is.
Like our front porch. There should be a giant welcome mat out front. There are many more than 2 biological sexes. In fact, there are 6. God is both masculine
Such
and
a wild
feminine
statement.
and everything in between. God is non-binary.
Oh, really? And while Time Magazine...
So yeah, that's James Tallarico.
Why James Tallarico's win puts Texas in play for November. Damn.
So what's great about this is everyone was downplaying this in the primary, and as soon as he won the primary against Jasmine Crockett, that's when they dumped all of these videos. And there's hours of this stuff. There's hours of James Tallarico being what a few years ago would have been just your normal lib, but we've kind of moved past a lot of these talking points, and I mean the American people is just so over it. So it's great. There's just like endless content, endless Oppo research you can do. We've not even scratched the surface of all this, and you'll see he's preached like whole sermons. I don't know why. I don't think he's a pastor, but apparently
You don't
he
need
would
to be a
sort of like-
pastor if you're an evangelical. Come on. It's like on a spectrum. We're all kind of
That's
a
right.
pastor or something.
Pastors are on a spectrum.
Hey, we're playing Hangman here. Let's see what letters go in here. What letters go in here?
I'm curious what denomination he's a part of.
We'll find out. But no, it is a wise political move to allow your opponents to run the worst candidates possible, and then as soon as they win, drop the files, right? As soon as they win their primary, right? And it's going into the general, then all right, then we get to put it to work.
So he is a member of St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church, which is embarrassing, but not my kind of Presbyterians. They're known for their progressive and inclusive stance supporting reproductive rights, LGBTQ plus. I love the plus. Inclusive.
Well, the plus just means pedos. That's what it always comes down to.
That's right. Plus kids and
That's
social
insane,
justice
dude.
causes. Yeah, that's crazy.
Lesbitarian. It's even worse than lesbitarianism. That's wild.
It's just blasphemy.
I can't believe people are probably Presbyterian. Yep, called it.
Yeah.
What do you think is the biblical evidence to support the opinion of being pro-abortion?
Mary is probably
my favorite figure in the Bible, the mother of Jesus. And, she is, she's an oppressed peasant teenage girl living in poverty under an oppressive empire as a Jew.
What? That's what you think of when you read the story? That's where your mind goes?
Just keep watching.
And she has a vision from God that she's going to give birth to a baby who's going to bring the powerful down from their thrones. God asks for Mary's consent, which is remarkable. I mean, go back and read this in Luke. I mean, the angel comes down and asks Mary if this is something she wants to do. And she says, if it is God's will, let it be done. Let it be. Let it happen. So to me, that is an affirmation in one of our most central stories that creation has to be done with consent. You cannot force someone to create. Creation is one of the most sacred acts that we engage in as human beings. But that has to be done with consent. It has to be done with freedom.
So, first off, no. The angel said to her, "Don't be afraid, Mary. God has shown you his grace. Listen, you will become pregnant and give birth to a son, and you will name him Jesus." Of note, there are no question marks here.
No,
there is
what's
no
funny is that's
upspeak.
actually a very Catholic take on it, though. What Tallarico is saying here, where it is sort of like Mary had to.
Well, it is
I mean,
her
I don't know if they're saying that
submission
she
to
had
will.
to. Right, exactly. They make a big deal of her basically. There's the old. I don't remember who said this, but one of the. I don't know if it's a church father, but a famous church teacher once said that all heaven held its breath. All the angels were holding their breath, and then Mary said, "Your will be done," and then breathed a sigh of relief, kind of. And it's like that's a very Catholic perspective on it, maybe Orthodox as well.
I
That's
like
not really the
that
Protestant
because
take,
I think
but-
it's a both and, right? Isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's like, of course she was selected, but it's all this stuff is like foreknown, and then but she also actively submits to the will of God, right? And so it is this.
If you don't see
this
her
unity
role
between
as
the two.
co-redemptrix as being particularly important or valid, then you don't really need to emphasize the her will portion of it nearly as much, which I think is why Protestants don't. So I'm not denying it in principle, but the reason why it's so important is because of this role. I mean, this is really the moment I think that instantiates her as being the co-redemptrix, because she joined her will to the will of God, and in doing so can serve as a co-redemptrix. Which even that logic doesn't exactly hold, which is kind of what the Catholic Church has determined, or at least advised against in some of the language. But yeah, so it's an odd take in that he's referencing what is very much a Catholic perspective, but he's doing so to talk about Mary's consent,
Well, but
and
he's talking
therefore
about, like,
justifying
sexual politics.
abortion.
Right, we haven't even got to that part yet.
I guess he's saying that. I'm not sure he ever gets there. I'm not sure he really gets there much beyond consent. But if you were to tie this to abortion, because we have not tied it yet to abortion. We've just talked about consent, which in no way justifies abortion. However, if you were going to use this as an argument for abortion, then I guess he's saying that Mary could have aborted Jesus and been okay. Like that would have been.
This is the thing, right? Anytime anybody talks about abortion being a positive or a woman's right to choose, and you ask them, could Mary have aborted Christ? And their answer to that question is usually some sort of bambling nonsense. And it's like,
Right.
yes, because of course it's evil and should not be done. But no, I mean, the way he's framing it here, because I'm fine with like the Catholic doing their thing, Orthodox doing their thing, all that, I haven't looked into all of that, so I don't know all of that, so I don't really want to get into that. But he's framing it as like modern day sexual politics and sexual interactions, right? About how me and you would have intercourse, James, right? We would ask for consent first, right?
Of course,
not between
yeah.
each other, but between other people, James. We would
thanks
ask
for
for consent,
clarifying.
of course. I just
You got
wanted
me
to
excited
clarify
there
that.
for a second, John.
Ah, damn it! See, you play into the joke.
I'm
right?
on my
But then
second
you're-
glass
you're-
of whiskey. We're at that stage. Yeah. No, I think the only way you can tie this to abortion is in the case of rape, right? And this is where they always go. They always say that abortion should be allowed in all cases because some people get raped and can't consent to having a baby, which the logic doesn't even follow there. But yeah, it's so nonsensical. It's hard to really try to analyze it or deconstruct it. But it's also extremely blasphemous and horribly offensive to all Christians, all true Christians.
And to me, that is absolutely consistent with the ministry and life and death of Jesus. And so that's how I come down on that side of the issue. Again, I'm very open for my fellow Christians to disagree with that, and they may have scriptural passages they point to be anti-abortion. And I think that's a debate that we should feel comfortable having. All I'm saying is that it shouldn't be assumed that just because you're a Christian, you are anti-gay or anti-abortion, because there's so.
See, this is one of those areas where I'm like, you know what, Catholics, you might have a point when you burn heretics at the stake. You might, like, there might be a legitimate reason to start that up. That whole thing needs to kind of, we're spinning it back up, okay? We're bringing the gallows back out. I really dislike that this person is called a Christian, and so am I. You know, I find that quite distasteful.
Yeah.
So many Christians out there who don't subscribe to either of those policy positions.
So there's a lot of nuance if you're talking about abortion, right? Because you're not just talking about a woman's right to choose about and incest.
That's right.
Right. So you're talking about a woman's right to choose whether or not she carries a baby when it was not her choice to begin with.
That's right. And it's why I think that almost everyone in this country is pro-choice to some extent. The mother of Jesus.
See, here's the thing. Obviously, like, if I said I'm pro-choice based upon race, you know, suddenly my view is very problematic to Mr. Tallarico, okay? But yeah, I don't know about that, man.
Yeah, just blasphemous, heretical, it really demonic. I mean, it's so what really gets me. So, are you familiar with David French?
No.
I don't remember why I really know much about him. I think back when COVID was the topic that everyone cared about politically, he was someone that some of my friends were reading. No, it was COVID and race. Yeah, it was mostly the race stuff. And back when everyone was going social justice, at the same time as they were all masking up and not having regular church. David French was moving in a leftward direction, and he's I believe Presbyterian. He would call himself a conservative Christian, and at this point he's just a big lib. He's just completely given up his conservative principles. But he, anyways, I have a lot of contempt for David French. He's just a scummy character, but I think he probably does believe it. Like, I think he's a true believer, and so an interesting case study where you look at someone who is just so corrupted themselves and so just completely polluted their minds into thinking that all of their leftist positions are actually somehow conservative. So an interesting case study. But he came out recently and was basically saying James Tallarico is one of the first and most prominent Christian politicians who actually takes his Christianity seriously. And you look at his rationale for that, it's because James Tallarico is nice and polite, unlike those nasty conservative Christians, the MAGA Christians, the America First Christians who are so aggressive and so mean and so rude, and that's his rationale. That it reminds me of when Piper put out a post back in, I think, 2020, the election, before the election, saying that you could vote for either Trump or Biden and you didn't need to see this as being a religious issue. There are plenty of good reasons why Christians could vote in good conscience for either side, because while yes, the leftists promote abortion, the right can be rude. There's one paragraph in particular that basically says that it's just as egregious. Maybe not. It's not quite that blunt, but that's the thrust of the paragraph, and it's just so. I just lose so much respect for these people who, who have many people look up to as spiritual leaders and as serious thinkers in the church, especially where the church intersects with political issues. And many such cases in terms of evangelicals and just Christians in general who just lost their spine. I mean, this isn't unique to evangelicals. Plenty of Catholics have completely, most Catholics don't even believe in the true presence or the Eucharist. They don't believe the
nominal
tenets of Catholicism. So it's Christianity needs to regrow a spine. And I think we're trending in that direction. I think the more people that call themselves Christian today, more and more are serious, but there's still a lot of people like James Tallarico. And if you look at the comment section in some of these videos, the ones that are posted on his channel, people are like, wow, the first time I've heard a real Christian message in a long time.
Well, that's the thing, though, right? The world loves Christians like James Tallarico, right? Because he will allow them to continue their debaucherous, evil, satanic lifestyle, right? And he'll be nice about it, right? He will hold your hand all the way down to hell because he's the nice guy. And I think that's a terrible position. I think that the early church certainly had a much more contentious relationship with the powers that be and with people that were disposed of them in the first 3 centuries. So I think that is kind of the way that we should be. It's not necessarily that we're trying to start fights with everyone for any reason, but we should be against the world, and we should be against the forces of the world and against the evil that we see in it, and just speaking up about traditional Christian beliefs. Yeah, no, abortion is wrong, and being gay, dude, nah, nah. just nah.
Thank you, Shia
Well,
LaBeouf.
what is this clip? Questions Republican bill forcing the 10 Commandments to be displayed in classrooms. I have not seen this. Is this good, James?
Yeah, go for it. It's only a 2-minute clip, so there's some meat here.
Go.
I say this to you as a fellow Christian. Representative Noble, I know you're a devout Christian, and so am I. This bill, to me, is not only unconstitutional, it's not only un-American, I think it is also deeply unchristian. And I say that because I believe this bill is idolatrous, I believe it is exclusionary, and I believe it is arrogant. And those 3 things.
I mean, Christianity is exclusionary. I mean, really, by definition, all worldviews are exclusionary, right? Even universal worldviews.
Ones.
Yeah, even universal worldviews exclude non-universal worldviews. So it's, Christianity is correct. All of the religions BTFO, I guess, It's like, I don't know. Sorry, dog.
In my reading of the gospel are diametrically opposed to the teachings of Jesus. You probably
see, this is another thing where people bring up their personal interpretations, and I'm like, yeah, we need to just stop doing that. We're done with this. Nope. I don't think you're qualified. No more private judgments. We're actually going back. We're going all the way back, dude. You're not even allowed to read the Bible anymore, okay? No more Bibles for the masses. We're done with that.
Matthew 6:5, when Jesus says, don't be like the hypocrites who love to pray publicly on street corners. When you pray, go into your room and shut the door and pray.
This is a bill about prayer in schools, right?
The 10 Commandments being hung in school. Okay. Right. So because Christ said to not pray boisterously in the public area, that means that you can't have churches or Christian iconography or positive messages in your schools or Bible verses anywhere, and we should remove all Christianity from public spaces because Christ said to somebody who was praying loudly in the public square, solely for attention, by the way, not for altruistic purposes, not for moral reasons, not to be a good Christian, but so that he could get his reward from the people seeing him being a loud prayer, right?
Fascinating. Every word you just said was
you
wrong.
just said was wrong, yes.
It's almost impressive. It's like when you get a 0 on a multiple choice test. It's like that really means that you knew it all perfectly because you're able to circle the wrong answers only just by sheer chance. Surely,
like
we
you
get one right.
intentionally. Yeah, you had to be intentionally this stupid.
Yeah.
A religion that has to force people to put up a poster to prove its legitimacy is a dead religion. And it's not one that I want to be a part of. It's not one that I think I am a part of. You know that in Scripture it says faith without works is what? Dead. Is dead. My concern is instead of bringing a bill that will feed the hungry, clothe the naked, heal the sick, we're instead mandating that people put up a poster.
Yeah, but why? Just because there's this other tangential issue, or not even tangential issue, just over there, why can't we also do this thing, right? Can you argue why this one action would be a moral bad to have the 10 Commandments within our school, right? At our most foundational level, where we're teaching our youth our values, where we're trying to, grow them up in the way that they should. Why that would be a bad thing, sir? Not like, hey, there's a homeless person over there. Therefore, no Bible verses in school. It's like I
Right.
feel like we could. I feel like those are just separate issues. Like we could talk like, sir, this is the Wendy's. Okay, we're talking about this bill. Also, you're on this panel. Like you could, issue your own bills ostensibly if you really wanted to. Not just me here, but this is my project. You can have your own, I guess. Jeez. Yeah, I guess we could care about children's the most important. Things, individual souls, I guess we could spend a little bit more care on that, but.
And we both follow a teacher, a rabbi, who said, don't let the law get in the way of loving your neighbor. Loving your neighbor is the most important law. It is the summation of all the law and all the prophets. I would submit to you that our neighbor also includes the Hindu student who sits in a classroom, the Buddhist student who sits in a classroom, and an atheist student who sits in a classroom. And my question.
So we should speak the truth in love, and I think the 10 Commandments is the great summation of that.
Great
Therefore,
place
we
to
should
start.
post that up everywhere, baby. It should be required in all public spaces, all right? Because that's right. Christ said, be nice, therefore elect 90-foot statues to Hindu demons and have mosques in every street corner and prayer calls for them, but no 10 Commandments for you. That's what Christ said when he said, be nice. In my personal interpretation of the Gospels.
Yeah. The fact that God is truth and that Christ is the truth, it is the greatest defeater to the whole be nice version of Christianity of that's what it means for love to be the fulfillment of the law. Like we were talking about at the beginning, it is true that love is a fulfillment of the law, but love includes speaking the truth in love. And I mean, that is an essential part of love. It is actually unloving to not do that. There is a duty to speak the truth in love. And yeah, I mean, that is the simplest rebuttal to this kind of.
Now that does not mean to grab the Hindu kid by the neck and say listen, kid, you're going to repent. You're going to go to hell. Okay. That's still, it's still technically true, but you're missing the love aspect of it. Okay.
Yeah.
To you is, does this bill truly love those students?
I'm going to go a different direction than I think you're trying to lead me.
Damn, I kind of wish she had her response, because I'm wondering if she gives a good, cogent response to that. But yeah, I mean, I feel like we responded enough there. Yeah. Cortisol, career-ending cortisol spike right there. Yes. No, I did have to back you off a little bit, James, because your mic got bumped or something. It was really hot for a second.
Change. There was a change in my ear, but okay.
Yeah, I turned it down. I turned it down in StreamYard, so it should be blowing anybody out. Right. And we have another clip here. Now, this one starts from the 38-second mark. Another, Tallarico masterpiece here. I have not seen this one either, so I'm excited to learn more about this prospective, senator, congressman?
I think senator at this point. Yeah, he's running for senator.
Okay.
They've been trying to put a Democratic senator in Texas for forever, right? They ran, who was the skateboard guy?
Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15s.
Yeah,
What was that guy's name? Yeah, I know you're talking about that guy.
It's so forgettable at this point, but yeah, they've
Who
been
cares,
trying to.
dude? They come and go every couple years. You know, it's like, oh, whatever. You'll just be the next one to fail. Beto, that's right. Beto O'Rourke.
That's right.
His work within politics. Several clips of him talking about his faith and his political beliefs have recently resurfaced and gone viral. Take a look at this one from an interview with James Carville.
I have met so many Hindus, Buddhists, Sikh, Jews, Muslims, atheists, agnostics who are more Christ-like than some of the Christians I serve with in the Texas legislature.
Now here was Tallarico giving.
That's fine though, right? Christians are bad people. I really hate to break it to everybody in the chat, but there's a lot of bad people. A lot of bad people that are going to go to heaven. It's tragic. The church is a sanctuary or a hospital for sinners, you could say. There are lots of bad people. And again, being this generic form of nice doesn't get you past St. Peter.
Yep.
So, yeah, rough.
An Easter sermon last year.
Christ is the immigrant, deported without due process. Christ is the senior, deprived of their Social Security benefits.
Christ
What
had
about
33?
Well, what about a senior deprived of their final year in school because of a cough? What about the young woman raped and murdered by a illegal immigrant? What about the people who can't afford houses or get jobs? What about those people, right? I feel it's always the selective too. They're so selective at who they care about, you know. They ask you to sacrifice, while wearing nice suits, while driving nice cars, while owning nice houses, and say, but think about the poor. I am the poor, James. How dare you?
Right.
Christ is the protester kidnapped in an unmarked vehicle by plainclothes officers. Christ is the student sitting in an overcrowded classroom in a defunded school.
About that last one, the immigrants and the overpopulated schools, they in a lot of areas they kind of go hand in hand, Mr. Tallarico.
It's almost like if you solve one problem, you might solve the other.
It's like I can solve the housing crisis, the school overcrowding. I can solve the job market, low end. I can do a lot of things really quickly. Okay, I just need a little bit of power and no questions asked. Okay, I can fix some problems. I can fix this world, not save it. I can fix it. Okay,
that's right.
Oh my god!
All right, is that the? I think that was it from this one.
That might be. Oh, he did. There's one more little clip. I want to see what he says here.
On the Super Bloom podcast back in 2023.
Something that you love that's not family.
Oh,
friends.
I know this one.
I love. I'm just saying this because it's on my mind. The trans children who showed up yesterday at the state capitol to advocate for their humanity. They shouldn't have to, but it was an inspiration to watch.
See, now that is satanic. I hate
could
that
choose
so much.
anything, something you love. I love trans kids.
I love children who have been propagandized, who have been brainwashed, who have been abused sexually, physically, emotionally, mentally by their parents, relatives, family members, to the point where they at some point want to go on mind-altering chemicals and castrate themselves or cut off their breasts. Those are the people.
Yeah.
Those are the people that I love the most. I just really love it when they show their such a satanic inversion. Right?
It is.
You have to kick these people out of your church. They should not be allowed to show their face. All right. You know what? Saint Nick, when he's punched or slapped Arius, base, okay, and we just need to bring that back a little bit. You are
if he makes it to the Senate, we should bring back Senate canings too.
Yes, well, duels. All right, first Christian to say that he's going to duel Mr. Tallarico on the Senate floor gets my vote. How about that?
It's not a bad idea.
And we have an entire sermon from this guy. You
We
think
don't
I
have
can
to
make it through an
finish it.
entire sermon from this
It'll be
guy,
hard.
James?
It'll be hard. But you gotta just watch a little bit to appreciate. He's so obnoxious. It's so. I mean, you get it in the clips, but when it's him talking to a flock, it's somehow even worse.
I'm gonna
And
hit my
just-
head against the wall, James. You're killing me here.
Last one.
While I'm getting through these super chats real fast, could you turn down the gain on your mic a little, and I'll boost you because you're like peaking.
Yeah. Let's. Yep. 1 second.
So turn it down just a little bit, and I'll boost you back up in stream.
Okay. Is that the right direction or is that the wrong direction?
Wrong direction?
There we go. Is that better?
That's better. Perfect. Okay.
All right.
Amorai Boy for 2 says El Cid's takes are dumb and uneducated. Okay, so you're using super chats to bash somebody else in chat. Very based. Much appreciated. Thank you, Amorai Boy. Mogging him, frame mogging the other chatters. You know, your wallet flexing, wallet maxing. Amorai Boy for another 2 says no, they don't. Give them back to Russia in the 90s. Gave them back.
I think
to
that's
Russia
about.
in the 90s.
I think that's about Ukraine.
And nukes. Okay, I see. Yes. Thank you, Amorai Boy. Amorai Boy again for 2 says Jeremiah 14:4, which is, and the Lord said to me, the prophets prophesy lies in my name. I have not sent them, commanded them, nor spoken to them. They prophesy to you a false vision. Excuse me. Divination, a worthless thing, and the deceit of their heart. Yes. Many false prophets, preachers. And then he follows up with Matthew 7:15 through 20, which is, beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. Yes, no, I'm just generically nice as they propagate castrating children. Okay. You will know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Even so, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a bad tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear a good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Therefore, by their fruits you will know them. Thank you, Amorai Boy. I appreciate it. Which is why when somebody complains about some like more base Christian will say being too mean or something like that, but then you look at the fruits of their actions, what they actually produce, and it's, you know, more Christians, or it's more good, or what their worldview is a good worldview, it's a good end goal, versus somebody like Tallarico who's generically nice, and it's like, well, what is he going to create? It's like more trans children and immigrants and gays in the church, like a more neutered Christianity, a perverted Christianity, a heretical Christianity. It's like, okay, I think that your fruits are bad. I don't care if it comes in a nice sounding package. And then over on, oops, wrong one. Where was I? This one. Over on Ko-Fi, let me show you this real fast. I think I saw somebody mitzvah for 5 says Numbers 15 through 22. Let me pull this up real fast. Numbers 5, 12 through 22. Wouldn't this be able to be construed as abortion? Like reading between the lines, this should abort a child if it doesn't kill the mother, which is rather odd. Now, I've heard this one debated before. So speak to the children of Israel and say to them, if any man's wife goes astray and behaves unfaithfully towards him, and a man lies with her carnally, and it is hidden from the eyes of her husband, and it is concealed that she has defiled herself, and there was no witness against her, nor was she caught. If the spirit of jealousy comes upon him, and he becomes jealous of the wife who has defiled herself, or if the spirit of jealousy comes upon him, and he becomes jealous of his wife, although she has not defiled herself, then the man shall bring his wife to the priest. He shall bring the offering required for her, 1/10 of an ephah of barley meal. He shall pour no oil on it, and put no frankincense on it, because it is a grain offering of jealousy, and offering for remembering, for bringing iniquity to remembrance. And the priest shall bring her near and set her before the Lord. The priest shall take the holy water in an earthen vessel, and take some of the dust that is on the floor of the tabernacle and put it into the water. Then the priest shall stand before the woman, and the woman before the Lord, uncover the woman's head, and put the offering for remembering in her hands, which is the grain offering of jealousy. And the priest shall have in his hand the bitter water that brings a curse. And the priest shall put her under oath and say to the woman, if no man has lain with you, and you have not gone astray to uncleanliness, while under your husband's authority, be free from this bitter water that brings a curse. But if you have gone astray while under your husband's authority, and if you have defiled yourself, and some man other than your husband has lain with you, then the priest shall put the woman under the oath of the curse. And he shall say to the woman, Lord, make you a curse and oath among your people, when the Lord makes your thigh rot and your belly swell, and may this water cause the curse to go into your stomach and make your belly swell and your thigh rot. Then the woman shall say, Amen, so be it. Now, I've heard like pro-abortionists use this argument before, that this is like somehow allowing for the modern case of abortion, and I don't think that this is applicable in this way to the modern context, like at all, right? I don't think you could even use this as some sort of justification, even if you take it at its worst interpretation. But another interpretation of it would simply be that this is like a legitimate, like a curse that is put upon the woman and will cause the fruit that she has bared to be bad, right? And I think that you see this in the modern context a lot, just with children who are born out of wedlock or are born from made in a sinful way, that they have a harder life, right? That they have other issues that come upon them.
I think it's clear that there's a couple things here. One, whatever is happening there, it's clear that it is God's actions, whether he's cursing or not cursing. And in the end, our lives are God's to do with whatever he pleases. And so, even if you were to show, and I'm not saying that this does, but this is sort of a case of God aborting the infant. Well, God gives, allows babies to die of cancer, allows, miscarriages. Like God can do whatever he wants when it comes to our lives. He gives life and he can take it away. So that would not be, even if that was what that passage is saying, that would not be a case for us to take that power into our own hands. Right. So that would be an illegitimate application if that's what it said. Also, the case for not aborting, period, to say life begins at conception, and to assume that that there is a soul, that there is personhood begins at conception as well, is actually not a strict dogmatic case. Like, as I understand it, the Christian position, the Catholic position, and just more broadly the Christian position, is not necessarily that we know that the soul attaches to the body at the moment of conception. There are reasons to believe that, but more so that we don't have any other point in the development to that we can point to as being the definitive time where the soul does attach to the body, and we do not believe that it is, just once it's born, once it exits the birth canal, that's all of a sudden when it becomes a person, and that it has a soul, and so it is more a case of, because we do not know if there is any chance that you will be killing a person, then you should not do it. So it's less a dogmatic stance of, oh, this is definitely a person. Every miscarriage, no matter how early, is the loss of a soul. It very well may be, but we don't actually have to make that case to make the case against abortion. And I think dogmatically we don't necessarily make that case. So just a little note of context.
Well, right, and the important thing there is that God is sovereign overall, and he has sovereignty over your life, my life, and everyone's life, right? It is his to do with as he pleases. And that second, that we don't know exactly when the mechanisms behind souls and humans and personhood and all of this stuff, and therefore it's not up to us to decide. Never up to us to decide. Right? Which is why it's never okay for us to rip apart a baby while it's in the womb. Very different, very, very, very different context here. Right. And to use this as justification for, somebody being like, oh, well, I'm just really stupid and I just want to abort my baby because I feel like it and I feel like it'll make my life harder or something. It's like, yeah, sorry about that, dog.
Yeah.
Not up to you.
And biologically, life begins at conception no matter what. Like, there's no question there. So, but most, at this point, pro-abortion people will even agree to that. They'll just say, okay, yeah, but it, what kind of life? Like, single cell, you can have a bacteria.
Well, yeah,
alive,
but
it's okay
it doesn't
destroy,
become human until I say it does.
Right.
Which is like,
well, and even being human is, it's Yeah, the question of personhood is even a separate question altogether. Personhood is something of a not modern, but a more modern invention, largely as a result of Christianity. The word person was coined by Tertullian to describe the Trinity. That's where our modern concept of personhood comes largely from an exploration of what it means to have three in one, because we needed something to describe the three, and we determined we landed on person. That word comes in part from the different masks that actors would wear, and also this notion of personhood in a corporate sense of you could have a corporation that would then take on a form of personhood that could where it would have certain like individual rights, and so you're kind of also applying that concept to the Godhead. But anyways, personhood is a whole philosophical topic in and of itself, and so it's very complex. We take for granted.
That was a good support, Mitch. Thank you for the conversation. Geonotion for 5 says, if retards wanted free healthcare and education enough, they would be okay with the Catholic Church stepping in and helping with that, right? Right? I mean, in an ideal world, I think that there would be a lot more Christian influence on day to day, like in hospitals and school systems and stuff like that. So I think that there would be a lot of things kind of left up to the church in a more ideal scenario, right? Thank you for that, Geonotion. John C. Barsom for 5 says, Mary is the only Jew Doug Wilson thinks you shouldn't venerate. ... Again, that's probably a little too harsh, but thank you. It's funny. Cody for 10 says Romans 8:11. Appreciate the stream tonight, boys. James, quit drinking. Focus and chat. And James, much love. Christ is King. Seek holiness. Thank you very much. Cody, hope you're having a good night. Romans 8:11. But if the spirit of him who raised Jesus from the dead dwells in you, he who raised Christ from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies through his spirit who dwells in you. Thank you, Cody. Appreciate that, sir. And then I saw Full Metal Jacket. I saw you highlight that one. He has not been happy with a single one of your takes.
Well, he never is.
I think he's just hating to hate at this point. But I haven't seen his argument against your position there. Which your
I'm not
position
even sure
is
that I
essentially
made a
just
position.
your position is essentially like we don't know. There's like this mystical distinction somewhere in there, and we can't like explain it mechanistically. Which is fine. I think it can be sort of a mystery. I think you can leave things like that up to a mystery.
And I'm not in any. I don't know what I'm arguing for that is grotesque. That's where I'm, or in any way unorthodox.
Pastor, Dr. Jim Rigby, is on his writing leave, but I don't know how much writing is really getting done. I sent him a text asking for some inspiration for this sermon, and he sent me this. It's the top reasons beer is better than religion.
Full Metal Jacket. Yeah, if you just send me an email, I can send you a link. So if you ever want to just have it out with James, like that could be fun. I don't know if James wants to do that tonight, but I'm sure at some point that could be fun.
If you want to come on tonight, you can. I'm here.
We could do a call-in show at some point too. I think we did that once.
Yeah,
we could do a call-in show at some point.
Number one, when you have beer, you don't knock on
everyone in
people's
this
doors
church
trying to
is
give it away.
just like an octogenarian. This has got to be the oldest church.
Yeah, let me see the crowd.
Number two, there are laws against forcing beer on minors who can't think for themselves.
Should be laws forcing contraception or other chemical castration on children who can't think for themselves either. Not Tallarico.
Three.
So we should
Nobody's ever been.
we should do like we could do a call-in show, but it would be good to maybe seed that show with a couple people beforehand. So if you are in the Discord or just a regular viewer and you want to come on, shoot us an email at regardingdoubt@gmail.com, and maybe we can put together a show where we kind of line up 3 to 5 people that are regulars, and we can kind of cycle through those, and then we can open the floor for anyone else who wants to call in. Something like that would be kind of fun. So just shoot us an email and we can get that lined up.
Yeah, and if you are in the Discord, just tag James Compulsive Gun Buyer in there, and he should respond. So, yeah.
Burned at the stake because of their favorite brand of beer. Number 4, you don't have to wait more than 2,000 years for a second beer.
I know Protestants get a really bad rap for doing this, as they should, but the mini comedy sketch to start out your show, and it's so performative. I really dislike it. Because it puts the I guess it's like you're trying to start a podcast or something, but the emphasis is not on anything scriptural or meaningful. It's kind of like a little bit of entertain. You got to entertain the audience before we get into the meat or something like that.
Yeah. I
And
don't
last-
even really like the intro stories where it's like pastors will have a hook where it's like they'll tell some story about some missionary in Africa that sort of ties in with the scripture. It's like, just, I don't know, just read the passage and talk about sound exegesis and just give me
Exactly,
some
yeah,
sound
yeah.
doctrine and some good application. That's all I need. I don't need this emotional tie-in that is sort of, yeah, usually loosely tied in and actually just kind of confuses the issue because it's not, I don't know. It's not really directly tied into the passage, but just sort of as an attention getter. But now it's just got me distracted, and I don't really care too much. I'd rather just give me the sound exegesis with good doctrine and some application, or just read
If you've
scripture.
devoted
I'd be
your life
okay
to
if you
beer-
just read scripture and didn't do any of the sermon. I've become less.
Well,
and
I think a
less-
pastor's job is to explain, especially to some, because people in the audience are going to come away with different interpretations. Just even
I think it's primarily to remind of the eternal truths. I do think that it is good to have a healthy dose of doctrine as well. I'm a little conflicted on what a pastor's job should be. The often Protestant or Presbyterians, true Presbyterians, conservative Presbyterians, are accused of kind of being too doctrine focused and not enough application, kind of too I don't know, too heady, I guess. I think that there is some truth there, but I've been in sermons that are just very trite and trying to focus on application, but it's just not good.
Growing up, the church we used to go to was like, all right, here's 3 ways to fix your life. And every sermon was the exact same thing. But growing up,
Yeah.
you're like, you just go into the church that your parents drag you to.
I have had some really good pastors who gave really good sermons and knew how to balance this well. I have more and more come to just appreciate as much scripture as possible and less of the teaching. Basically, the teaching element of the service has become kind of less and less important to me in terms of when I'm looking for a good church. It's more the community and the spirit, just sort of being able to feel God working in the congregation. But I'm not convinced that that's necessarily a positive movement in myself. I think that that's kind of where my preferences have moved. But I do think that doctrine is important, and there is a good way to balance this. I just think very few churches do it particularly well, and so I kind of stopped trying to look for the perfect church that had, great sermons every single time. It's like, are you preaching the word? Is the music, tolerable, not too, not obnoxious? Are the minimal distractions that take me out of, reverence and the worship of God, and a healthy dose of scripture and God's word.
Have a good night, JC. Appreciate you. You too, El Cid. Even though you were arguing with I'm Alright Boy.
There are groups to help you. My granddad was a Baptist preacher. I've been a member of this church since I was 2 years old, and now I'm in seminary studying to become a minister myself. My faith means more to me than anything. But if I'm
How does
being
he get
very
into
honest,
seminary?
sometimes
Is this
I
what
hesitate
seminary?
before telling.
If that's what seminary is pumping out, like, it's just worthless, dude. If you can, how do you graduate being if you're allowing heretics to graduate, like, there's got to be some sort of theological test at the end of seminary, surely, that would not allow you to. Because if
it
you
totally
get a
depends on
degree,
the seminary. There's a lot of seminaries that are actively preaching this kind of stuff. We'll
book
have to
says
go
seminary.
Yeah. We could do a stream going into all of the Yeah, all of the heretical crap that's just being pumped out of seminaries. There are a lot of liberal seminaries. And it would be good to do a stream on liberal Christianity, because you know, and that's a technical term in theology, and there is to not just political liberalism, but liberal Christianity, and ultimately it's not Christian. It is antithetical to Christianity. It denies the core dogmas of Christianity. But it's worth exploring, because if you are always raised in a Christian conservative culture, you don't even realize that this is what so many people are calling Christianity in the U.S. and across the world. I mean, this is it's a global phenomenon. And even within Catholicism, there are liberal wings. I mean, certainly in the high echelons, there are liberal priests, and there's a liberalizing tendency. Catholics have done a fine job of holding that. But, you know, so liberation theology is a big movement that cuts across denominations, and there's a big wing of liberation theology within Catholicism, mostly coming from the South Americas. And in North America, we have Black liberation theology is the biggest part of liberation theology, and that's James Cone, who is just unreadable. I've read 2 of his books, and it's so bad. But yeah, Black liberation theology is just total trash. But there's a lot of it that in South America that has seeped into the Catholic Church as well. So, anyways, liberal Christianity is antithetical to Christianity, and it's a real danger. And that is what a lot of people. It's very academic, and there's a lot of seminaries are officially pumping this stuff out.
Someone, I'm a Christian. There is a cancer on our religion. Until we confess the sin that is Christian nationalism and exorcise it from our churches, our religion can do a lot more damage.
Yeah, we have a sin of tradition. We need to get rid of that so I can continue my progressive diatribe.
Than a 6-pack of Lone Star. There is nothing Christian about Christian nationalism. It is the worship of power, social power, economic power, political power in the name of Christ. And it is a betrayal of Jesus of Nazareth. He told us we would know them by their fruits. Jesus includes. Christian nationalism excludes. Jesus liberates. Christian nationalism controls. Jesus saves. Christian nationalism kills. Jesus started a universal movement based on mutual love. Christian nationalism.
A what? Within the teachings of Christ, there's a lot of judgment. There's a lot of talk of judgment, of things not going so well for the people who don't follow his instructions. How could you call it a universal movement? And does the universal movement include Christian nationalists, Mr. Tillerico? Yeah. All right.
Don't try to understand it. Just
that's the thing. It's like
vibes.
every 5 seconds, it's like you could stop and talk about everything he's saying, and it's just nonsense.
Is a sectarian movement based on mutual hate. Jesus came to transform the world. Christian nationalism is here to maintain the status quo.
Jump to
they
the
have
middle.
co-opted.
I meant to put a timestamp. I forget the exact moment, but there were a couple things, yeah, kind of towards the second half that I thought would be good to get to.
Do we really think God would make all these beautiful people with all their beautiful traditions for no reason at all?
Okay, all right. But here's the thing. Who gets to decide what traditions are beautiful or not, right?
Yeah,
so when Cortez showed up and the Aztecs were killing 1,000 people a day and sacrificing their hearts to the sun god or to the snake god or whatever it was, I forget the name of it now. And he said, "Nah, we're not going to do that anymore." Was he just your mic just tried to murder everyone. Wow. Oh my, no, dude, unplug that. That is awful. That is just screaming demon noises coming from your mic, bro. Oh my gosh. Whoa, sorry to everybody in the chat who may or may not have been wearing headphones there. That yes, that was just ear rape. Yes. Whoa. All right. Let's hope that he fixes that. But what I was gonna say is, yeah. So that's That's part of the beautiful people and beautiful tradition that they made. No, it's not. That's the thing. Traditions from demon worshippers are not beautiful. The idols will be cast down. The devil worship will stop. The satanic rituals will be put to an end. You're welcome, okay? Indigenous peoples of South America, Cortez sends his regards. All right, let's see. Oh my gosh. Talk, James. Now it's not picking up anything. Now it's predestined. I'm really scared if he plugs it in and it goes back to the... No, it's muted.
We good?
Talk? Oh, there we go. I heard you. Oh my gosh. That, I don't know what happened there, but it was like max 10 out of 10
I don't
ear
know
rape.
what's going on. I didn't hear anything. I mean, it's all sounded normal on my end.
Yeah. All right. But that's good. All right. We're back. We're back. Yeah. Sorry. The human sacrifices and cannibalism will end. I hate that as a standard. It's like, oh, look at all these beautiful people and traditions. And it's like, well, what about all the bad ones and the evil ones and the ugly ones? Or what if I just really loved my own traditions and said, yeah, I don't want to ruin them by replacing them with people who don't hold my traditions. So he's like, oh, that's actually evil. That's exclusionary or something.
So many pathways to the sacred. The Islamic mystic.
No, there's literally one. Jesus Christ.
Only
That's just one, actually. Thank you, though.
There are so many pathways to the sacred. The Islamic mystic Rumi said, every religion has love, but love has no religion. God is so much bigger than our human categories. God is not a Presbyterian. God is not a Christian.
Did he say God is not a Christian? Wow.
That's what he said. God is not a Christian.
Yeah, that's a hot take.
Well, you have to remember when he's referring to his God, it's
Right,
Satan.
It's
His God is Satan. So he is correct that his God is not a follower of Christ. That's
No, this really is demonic. It is.
yeah, it's just evil. It's evil in a nice coat of paint, in a, unassuming coat of paint, right? Demons come in many forms. This guy looks like a low T Pete Buttigieg, it's like the gay Pete Buttigieg. That's what this looks like.
Is so much bigger than our human categories. God is not a Presbyterian. God is not a Christian. God is not a noun at all. God is a verb. God is not a being. God is being itself. God is love.
Yeah.
And that's why Jesus is against anything that gets in the way of that love.
I am very interested in his Christology now.
Yeah. So, the concept of God being itself is not entirely off. Calling God, but saying that God is not a noun and only a verb, doesn't
like
really
a pure
make sense.
act. Is that that's the
basically? I mean, that's what if being is an action verb, and even because being isn't really an action verb, right? If we're now that we're on grammar.
I can't get into this discussion.
Yeah.
This is for nerds to get into, all right? Pure act, being, and essence, energy distinction.
It's not worth really trying to dive into it. I mean, I don't know if he went to seminary and he's got some actual, reasoned theological stance behind this, but I doubt it. I think he's just saying words, and it doesn't really matter if it the only thing that matters to him is that it sounds nice.
Yes, it sounds profound, right? It sounds like you're saying something interesting, which is the problem because, like, when the Orthodox or the Catholic, expound upon their Christology, they have a well-reasoned foundation that everything springs from, and it's not just random nonsense. It's not just what I thought up on the car ride over to the church this morning that would sound good, in my opening statement. It's based off of thousands of years of tradition and people arguing it out, and you have this kind of paradigm that you work from rather than, again, whatever is floating around in Mr. Tallarico's head right now.
But I'm sure that there are people in liberal institutions who would agree with that statement that God is a verb, God is being itself, and the way He's putting it. So there probably is a more academic basis behind what He's saying that would be interesting to explore. I'm not convinced that He is that it matters to Him.
Yeah. Masters of Divinity. Yeah.
God is not a being. God is being itself. God is love. And that's why Jesus is against anything that gets in the way of that love between neighbors, including religion. That's why He's always breaking religious rules. That's why He's always getting in trouble with the religious authorities. That's why He says sinners will see the kingdom of heaven before religious people do. Sorry to everyone here. I know you came all this way. Religious supremacy is antithetical to the gospel of Jesus
So
Christ.
you're saying that non-Christians get into heaven before Christians do? Is that what he just said?
Well, but it wasn't the fact that they were religious that was the problem. It was the fact that they denied Him, right? The fulfillment of their religion, right? And I do want to be clear. I am a Christ supremacist. I mean, that's pretty foundational to my theology, is that I am indeed a Christ supremacist.
Christ is king and no king but Christ.
Yeah, it's real religious supremacy. It's like, yep, it's Christianity. Thanks, bud.
Jesus didn't come to establish a Christian nation. He came to reveal ultimate reality, which He called the kingdom of God. But it's not like any kingdom we've ever known. Instead of a throne, Jesus sits at a table.
Nope, there's also a throne. It's very clear iconography.
Directly contradicting Revelation.
Obviously a throne, yes, referenced many times in many places that there is actually a throne of God.
This is true. He does have a certain cadence. It is
true. Yeah, actually, that's a good comparison there. They come from the same school though, the same vat. You know, you got to look nice. It's like be dressed up, but not too dressed up. No tie, okay. You know, talk soft, nice pauses, couple seconds here and there, and then move on. You know, then you can go a long ways with just being mildly charismatic and say nice words. Sound generically nice while you're dropping more drones and bombs than any person in history. And then somehow still win a Nobel Peace Prize.
So
Instead
if
of
I'm
a
not
warhorse.
mistaken, I don't know if this is, so it's St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church. I don't know if that was just his church or if that was a denomination. So I don't know. I was going to say that, well, anyways, this is the kind of crap that you'll hear from PC USA pastors. And so PC USA is the liberal Presbyterian denomination in the United States, one of them. And PCA, which is what I'm a member of, split with the PC USA many years ago over the leftward doctrines, the leftist doctrines that the liberal doctrines that the PC USA was adopting. The PC USA is the older denomination. It is the mainline denomination in the United States. It is the oldest Presbyterian church in the United States, and that's what Redeemed Zoomer is a member of.
Right.
He's trying
and
to lead the Reconquista
fix it.
of trying to.
I was just
fix
about
it,
to ask that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Damn, I mean, you've got a lot of work to do to fix that, bro. Good luck. I mean, it would be cool to retake the oldest Presbyterian church in America, and then to actually convert it from this heresy back into normalcy, back into orthodoxy as far as
Got a lot of nice church buildings.
Yeah, that too, right? It sucks that you lose all that when you leave. And I mean, I do get maybe we should talk to Redeemed Zoomer at some point, but I totally get his gripes about everybody just running away anytime something gets tough.
Yeah,
right?
I mean the old joke
and
is
where
that
leads to.
Yeah, Presbyterians start new denominations when they get upset. Baptists just start new churches, and that's a trend you see.
Well, they just are more congregational. So yes, exactly. What is Baptist theology? I don't know. Check with your pastor about it. But yeah, is there anything else you wanted to cover in this? We're pushing 2 hours and 40 minutes right now, sir.
Nope, I just wanted to get to God is verb. God is not a noun. Apparently, God is not a noun. You heard it here first, folks.
What do you mean by that? All right, I feel like there's a potential word concept fallacy going on here. Yeah. Everybody's favorite. Ronnie D, or Ronnie Z, I should say. It's Zengaleski. Ronnie D, Ronide, Zengaleski. I should figure that out. Ronnie D Zengaleski. That's what I'm going to say his name is. For 10, says letting Ted Cruz know. Oh, we should have covered that today, probably. Letting Ted Cruz know that Christ is king. That's right. He has taken the. What?
Okay, yeah. No, fill me in. I haven't actually heard. So did
No,
he
this
say
is
something
very
recently?
recent. Actually, let me just pull it
I know
up
there
on
was a
X real
controversy a
fast.
while ago about people saying Christ is king, and then other people saying, well, is that just some sort of a anti-Semitic dog whistle? And yeah, and there was, I don't know, a bunch of stupid commentary on both sides, in my opinion. So what's the latest?
I think he just had this clip here. Let me see.
And to be honest, that was not a phrase I grew up with in church. And I was thinking about it the other day. You know, we would say things like Jesus loves you, Jesus saves. That tended to be more. Christ is king is a phrase that seems to have originated online, and it's some of kind of the Groyper folks that
this is so cringe.
It almost sort of invokes images of the crusade, that in the name of Jesus we will conquer everyone else.
Based Christian Imperium, all right? Not a Christian world. We're having a Christian universe, all right? And the aliens are going to figure out that Christ is king. Yeah, no, it's like this invokes imagery of like wars for Christ, of like, it's like when Christians broke the siege of Vienna and stopped the Ottoman Empire's expansion. Isn't that like terrible? No, Mr. Ostensibly Christian Ted Cruz, that's kind of our job, right? Is to be happy warriors for Christ. Now, obviously, not all of that is with swords and shields and being cool, but yeah, Christ is king, baby. I don't know what to tell you.
It's just always disappointing to see how historically and theologically illiterate, ostensibly Christian people are. Well, I'm not denying Cruz's authentic Christianity, but I have no idea. But it is frustrating when people public figures who claim to be Christians, when they actually get down to talking about their Christianity. Tucker does this too, right? Whenever Tucker starts talking about Christianity, it's clear that he just has no idea what he's talking about. Theologically,
well, it's like Piers Morgan saying, "I'm a Catholic." It's like,
yeah,
okay,
well,
right.
That's a different thing because it's a very common trope within Catholicism to be just nominal Catholics, and Pierce at least will say he's not he will
Practicing?
call himself. Yeah, well, I don't know if he would say not practicing, but he'll say he's not a devout Catholic. That's what we'll say. So he basically is admitting that he is a nominal Catholic or a non-devout Catholic, whatever that means, where you don't really have that within. I mean, you certainly do have it, but you don't have people saying that. Like, you wouldn't have people saying, I'm a non-devout Baptist.
I mean, yeah, but it's the same. It ends up being the same thing, though. They're essentially they don't really have faith in their day-to-day life. Maybe a couple times a year.
It's so sad when these public figures that they just have no idea what they're talking about. But they'll use Jesus as an example.
Exactly. They'll run on it.
Yeah.
They run on it to get votes, and then anytime you dig deeper into their theology, it's like, oh, I just see who's paying you now. Like, that's what your theology is based on, basically. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for that, Ronnie. By the way, I appreciate that. Well, that wraps up the show. Unless you got anything else you'd like us to get to real fast, sir.
No, that was a good time. Very fun, guys. Thanks for being here. Thanks for the support. We do appreciate it. Hopefully, Christian will be back next week, and we'll try to work on a larger stream. Maybe get some Discord folks on here, and
it could be a good time.
It'll be a lot of fun.
Got a panel discussion going.
I did reach out. Well, I Reformed Renegade. I saw your text. We'll try to get you on at some point in the future too. All right, appreciate you all, guys. This has been a lot of fun. I can't think of anything else. God bless everyone. Have a great week. We will see you next Tuesday.
I was like, Christ is king.
Christ is king.